got a slip in your palm and a hole in your chest. Black coffee on the felt, man, you look like a mess. 3-team parlay turned to dust in your hand. Now you stare at the chips like they made you this man. But don't you go quiet, don't you fade from the floor. Your name still means something to somebody for sure. Put the glass down, baby. Look at me now. Hold on, hold on. Not tonight, not now. Hold on. Let me pull you out. That fella bites hard, but it don't get the crown.
What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports for Friday, June 5th. We had a push on the show yesterday with the only play, which was the Yankees split bet, make your own -1 run line. They won by exactly 1, so it was a push. Their pitching was good. Their hitting did not live up to they were not up to the task, but they won 2-1. But I expected much more offense from the Yankees there, so I don't know. We move on to today. I'm fine with, I almost skipped the board yesterday, so I'm fine with that. But I'd rather win money, obviously, or I'd rather give out wins on the show. Whatever. I'm going to have 3 plays. I'm going to give out 2 baseball plays. I am going to give out an NBA play, which is maybe not what you think it's going to be. But I think I have the best way of attacking the NBA game, so I will give out a play there because it is a good spot to make a play on one of the particular teams, which you probably know. If you follow me, you know which team that is. You probably know what I'm going to do then because I think there's just a different way to attack it where the number is better. So that's what I'm going to do. And, yeah, I think that's all I got. There's some WNBA Cup stuff as well, but I don't have a strong opinion on those games. Gerald, what's up? Yes, Bayo is continuing to be awful. I had a couple of my over opinions were correct in Major League Baseball yesterday with the A's and Cubs game and also that one, the Orioles Red Sox. Those overs were correct. I mentioned A's team total as well. That was an over as well. Both teams went over their totals in the A's and Cubs game. All right. We have an afternoon Wrigley game here. Speaking of the Cubs, San Francisco is traveling in from Milwaukee. So it's a quick trip for San Francisco down from Milwaukee. Cubs staying at home here, so the travel's not really an issue. Both teams played yesterday. San Francisco's bullpen has kind of fallen off, and they used a bunch of guys out of it yesterday. They used 5 guys out of the bullpen yesterday, which they might have gone with a bullpen game yesterday, or no, I think it was Hauser. I guess he got housed. I don't know, but that's not good. Cubs are already the better bullpen, and they're more rested here. So the Cubs do have a bullpen advantage here. They're number 8 in bullpen. I arranged this by whip. The Giants, who I thought would be a good bullpen again, they're all the way down at 25th. So they're kind of a bullpen that I think you kind of want to avoid here. Hitting, the Cubs are definitely better. They're 8th. The Giants are 13th because they just put up another huge offensive number yesterday, but I don't buy it. I really don't. I think the Giants are on their way back down. One of those, their biggest offensive explosion was at Coors Field, and then I know they had one yesterday, but I'm still not really buying it. So them being 13th is just insane to me because they were like 25th in offense before the 19-run game in Coors Field. So I think the Cubs are definitely the better offense. So the Cubs have some advantages here. They probably have a starting pitching advantage here, too. Robbie Ray is pitching for San Francisco. He has not been pitching well recently. He's got okay numbers, sort of, on the season because he started out pretty good. 4.45 ERA, 1.4 whip. That whip is too high. He's been way worse on the road, 6.23 road ERA. And when we look at this total here for this game, it's a high total. It's 11, which tells you that there's wind blowing out at Wrigley Field here. So you got to see like what style of pitcher are these guys, right? So Robbie Ray, he got lit up in a game at Arizona not too long ago. Maybe not a good sign because that's like a hitter-friendly ballpark. He's going to be in a hitter-friendly environment here. He did just have to pitch in Coors Field, didn't go deep into that game, got kind of unlucky with the bad fielding behind him, but he really hasn't been good most of the last month or so. Like month of May, he had a 24-17 strikeout walk ratio. That's not going to do you any favors. That's bad. And an ERA of over 6 during that month, plus more hits than innings pitched, 33 in 29 and third innings. Overall, he's allowed fewer than 1 hit per inning, though. His strikeout rate is decent, but his walk rate is extremely high on the season. It's like 1 every 2 innings, and he's allowed double-digit home runs. And that's what I was talking about. When you're in a wind-blowing out game in Wrigley, you do not want to be a home run-conducive pitcher. Ray definitely is. He's allowed 13 home runs this year, and he's allowed a ton of fly balls. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher, so I don't think that plays well for him. Fly ball pitcher, bad numbers on the road. Doesn't look good for him, although he does actually have good numbers against the Cubs. 44 at-bats, 11.5 strikeout walk ratio, 182 batting average allowed, 629 OPS. So the matchup for him is not that bad, but I think the environment is bad, and he's not really in good form right now. Edward Cabrera is coming back from injury to make the start for the Cubs here. He's been out for about 2 weeks, I want to say. I think he was on the 15-day DL or whatever you want to call it now for basically the minimum amount of time that you're required to be. He's got a 4 ERA and a 1.35 whip this year, which isn't really that good, but I do think he's a pretty good pitcher. We'll see how he holds up, though, because he had a finger injury, which is not great if it's on your throwing hand, obviously. He's been pretty good at home this year, though, 3.55 home ERA. He got hurt, obviously, so he had a kind of shortened start his last time out against Milwaukee. He wasn't pitching well in the month of May, though. He had an ERA almost 6 in May over 4 starts, 18-8 strikeout walk ratio, 23 hits allowed in 18 2/3 innings, and 5 home runs. So he was putting too many guys on base. The home run number wasn't that good, but he's only allowed 8 home runs on the season. So he might be better for this type of pitching environment with the wind blowing out because he is not as extreme a fly ball pitcher as Ray is. Cabrera's more like even between his ground balls and fly balls, somewhat still tilted towards the fly balls, but I think most pitchers really are. So I think Cabrera does set up better in this game. He's got an okay strikeout rate this year, a decent hit rate, lower than 1 per inning, and his walk rate is still too high. But I think overall Cabrera is the better pitcher. Question is he going to come back from injury and pitch well? I think generally I would say, yeah, when the guy's a veteran like this, he's been around for a while now. When you get a veteran like this, they're used to coming back from injury like this. So I think he should pitch well here. That would be my guess. But we got to look at what his numbers are against the opponent here, which is the Giants, who I still don't think are very good offense. Cabrera's got decent numbers against them, 32 at-bats, 250 average, allowed 696 OPS, 12.9 strikeout walk ratio is not good, though. But I'm going to lean to the Cubs in this one. The money is coming in on that side, 63% of the tickets, 71% of the cash on them. They're around -1. They're in the high -170s, though. I mean, the Cubs are favored for a reason. The odds makers are telling you that they're the better team here, and I think they have the advantage in all 3 phases of this game. I just don't love the price. I mean, I think if you want to do it, I would still go that way, though, and probably just go with the Cubs. Split bet, partially on the run line, partially on the money line. Like, get the price down by making your own -1 run line. That's probably the way I would play that game if I was going to do it. Kyle, what's up? Garrett, what's up? That was a very intense game last night. Basically, the reasons I'm rooting for the Knights, though, are to crush everybody else's bracket in the ESPN pool because that would give me an advantage because I had the Knights winning the Western Conference, but also, and I had not Carolina winning, but also the Carolina anti-Carter Hart thing is just so stupid, dude. Like, they're propagating a lie, basically, and it just really pisses me off. I can't deal with it. I can't stand it. I don't know. All right. Next game up, man, this is going to take forever, a full slate of baseball. I do not want the show to be this long. White Sox at Philadelphia as we get into the evening slate here. Philadelphia played yesterday. They are staying at home, though, but they completed a sweep of San Diego again, which made sense because they had a huge pitching advantage in that game with Zach Wheeler pitching against, I don't even remember who it was for San Diego, but it was not good, whatever it was. The White Sox had yesterday off, so the White Sox have a rest advantage here. They're coming in from Minnesota, though, so they are having to travel. They just beat Minnesota after losing the first 2 games of that series. White Sox have the rest advantage here, though, so something to keep in mind there. They do not have a good bullpen, but they did rest yesterday. Philadelphia only used 2 guys out of their bullpen, so that's not too bad. Philadelphia is the better bullpen. They're ranked 14th. The White Sox, not very good. They are somewhere in the middle of the pack now, though. They're actually 16th now, though their ERA still not very good out of the bullpen there. Hitting-wise, the White Sox are better. They're 5th. The Phillies have really been bad. They're 28th, although I still keep thinking they're going to come around offensively at some point, but it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. Anthony Kay is pitching for the White Sox. He's been way better than you would expect. I mean, I don't really get how a guy who's in his 30s all of a sudden starts pitching well. He's got a 3.77 ERA. His whip is not that good, though, 1.4. So I think that there is going to be some regression coming. Like, this indicates that his ERA should be worse than it is. He's not as good on the road, 4.81 road ERA. He's given up only 1 earned run each in his last 3 outings, though. And he's given up no more than 2 the entire month of May is what he did there. With somewhat too many walks, 10 walks and 32 in the 3rd inning. It's not too bad, though. 27 strikeouts, 28 hits allowed. Those numbers were really not that bad. And the White Sox won his last 5 games. A lot of them were against some kind of weak offenses, though. Detroit, Kansas City, Minnesota's not great. Seattle's okay, and he did pitch well against them twice. Yeah. Overall in the season, low strikeout rate for him. His hit rate is reasonable, lower than 1 per inning. Walk rate is a little bit high. He's been okay, but I don't think he's as good as his ERA would suggest. He's not as good on the road. Against Philadelphia, though, he's done well against them in a very small sample size, 13 at-bats, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. Marsh does have a home run off him, but he's held them to a 154 average, 662 OPS. So Kay may actually pitch well here. I do worry that he's not as good as he looks. He's not as good on the road, but he is in good form right now, and he has good matchup numbers against Philadelphia. And the home road splits do not help Jesus Luzardo here, who's pitching for Philadelphia. He's got a 4.3 ERA, 1.31 whip. I keep saying that he's not as bad as his numbers look. Like, he's gotten a bit unlucky in how many guys that he's put on base have come around to score, but that's still not a very good whip. Like, that's still too many people on that you're putting on base here, and he's been awful at home for whatever reason. 7.31 home ERA, and if I'm not mistaken, he had a home road splits that were anti-home last year too. Yeah, it wasn't that extreme, but yes, he was slightly worse at home last year too. This year it's been really extreme, so you really kind of want to avoid him when he's at home right now. He's had most of his recent starts on the road. Did have a good month of May, but maybe because a lot of those starts are on the road. His worst start was a home start against Colorado during May, so maybe not a good sign that he's back at home, although he pitched better at home against Cincinnati in his most recent home start. Overall in the season, he's given up more than 1 hit per inning, which is kind of a problem. His walk rate is okay, and his strikeout rate is high. So his numbers aren't too bad on the course of the season, and kind of similar last month. His numbers against the White Sox, come on, are good. He's given up only 1 extra base hit, which is a home run from Benintendi, who seems to do damage to a lot of these pitchers here. But overall, 30 at-bats against the White Sox, 133 average allowed, 367 OPS, 6.0 strikeout walk ratio. So this game, I'm staying away from the game. There are some indicators, I might lean to the White Sox slightly, just because they do have a rest advantage here, but I don't want their bullpen either, really. So it could be a first 5 White Sox deal here, maybe on the like on the spread, on the run line, first five, but the money's disagreeing with that. 63% of tickets are on the White Sox. The public still likes the White Sox. The public loves these like hot offenses. The White Sox have the better offense, but these teams have the same record now, and there's a reason why Philly's at about minus 180 something here, right? So, the odds makers are telling you Philadelphia is the better team here, and or they have the better of the pitching matchup, although I don't want Luzardo at home, though. 72% of the cash on Philly, though, so the money's coming in on Philly. I would somewhat disagree. I'd lean White Sox slightly first five. I also might lean slightly towards a first five under here, given that both starting pitchers have decent matchup numbers, but I do not want to play that either because it goes against both these pitchers' home road splits. The home road splits are against both of them here, which would be an indicator towards an over. But the matchup numbers are in opposition to that. So the way that I handicap it, yeah, that's not a game that's on my card. Bellinger slid over the bag. I did not see that. Yes, they scored one run in the seventh. Yes, both, or I consider it to kind of be one bet, even though I do it as two bets. So that's why I just listed as a push, because I basically just count it as a minus one run line bet, because that is what it is. You're just making your own, by getting a better number potentially by splitting it across multiple books if they have a better number in each market at different books. You know what I mean? All right, next game is Seattle and Detroit. Detroit is returning home from the road. I believe both teams were off yesterday, so both teams have a day of rest here. Detroit is returning home, though, which I don't love. They went to the White Sox, and they actually swept Tampa Bay. So Detroit actually at least has a little bit of momentum here, but returning home, I don't like that, because I think returning home is just negative regardless of whether you have momentum or not, really, because you got to get back to home life. You've been away for a week. It can be a distraction. Could be a letdown off of a sweep of Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay had a good record going into that series, and they still do. So I think that's a negative for Detroit. Seattle might be in a little bit of a better position here because they are starting a road trip. Usually you are focused when you start the road trip. Seattle did just lose a long win streak, though, and I think that's a negative. They'd won 8 games in a row, and then they finally lost their last game at home to the Mets. So I think when a team loses a long win streak like that, it can possibly hang them over into the next game. So that could be a negative for Seattle. I still think the spot is more negative for Detroit. I think there are positives and negatives for Seattle here. So, maybe that means Seattle has a little bit of a situational advantage here. I think they have the better starting pitcher on the mound here, but there are some issues with that too, as we'll see in a minute. Whoops, I don't know why I'm looking at that. Both bullpens are rested here. Seattle's got the better bullpen. They have one of the best bullpen ERAs in baseball. I think they have I think they have the best ERA now. Yeah, I think Seattle has the number one bullpen ERA right now. Red Sox are 2. Atlanta is now number 3, it looks like. So Seattle's got a good bullpen. Detroit, not as much. Detroit 20th, not very good. Seattle's got the bullpen advantage here. Their ERA is more than 1 run better. Seattle's offense has been better recently as well, except for that last game against the Mets, but they're up to 12th in offense. Detroit has massively struggled offensively more recently. They're at 23rd. So Seattle has a hitting advantage as well, and I would prefer their starter as well. You know me. I mean, I like Brian Wu. I think he is good. He's got a 3.44 ERA, 0.96 whip. A sub-1 whip is difficult to do. That is pretty solid. He's not as good on the road, though. When you take him away from pitcher-friendly Seattle, he does have a 4.68 road ERA, so more difficult to back him on the road. His last road outing wasn't very good against Kansas City, although he had a road outing prior to that against Houston that was good. Over the month of May, he was good. His numbers were right in line with what you get from him usually. His strikeout rate actually went up during that month, though. Overall, his strikeout rate is close to 1 per inning on the season. He has a really low hit rate, and his walk rate's not too bad either. He's a good pitcher, man, overall. But not as good on the road. Numbers against Detroit are good, though. In 35 at-bats, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, 171 average allowed, 423 OPS. That's pretty dominant. He's been pretty dominant against Detroit. So even though his road numbers aren't particularly good, this looks like a decent matchup for him here. Framber Valdez, the head case, is pitching for the Tigers here. Man, when he's in an environment that's kind of non-competitive, like Detroit right now where they're struggling, he seems to kind of go along with that happening and doesn't pitch as well. He's not having the greatest season here. 4.39 ERA, 1.32 whip. That's not good. He's been worse at home as well. 5.14 ERA at home. That's not good. His numbers were okay in his last two outings. I know he gave up 4 runs to the White Sox, but he actually wasn't that bad in that outing. And he was good against Baltimore the start before that, but he was definitely struggling the few starts before that, and his team has lost 5 games in a row, lost all of his starts in the month of May. His strikeout rate was kind of low for what he usually does. His walk rate was definitely too high, and that's been the case on the entire season. His hit rate is pretty good. His strikeout rate is definitely down from what you usually get out of him, and his walk rate is too high, which he does tend to walk too many guys, but usually he gets more strikeouts and pitches a bit better than this, so he's not having his best season here. Numbers against Seattle are not horrible. He has 155 at-bats against them, so they've seen a lot of him. 41 strikeouts, 20 walks is way too many walks, though. So that is a bad ratio there, but he has held them to a 245 average, 719 OPS. So even with all those walks, Seattle really hasn't done that much offensive damage against him. His numbers aren't really that bad against them. I think I prefer Seattle here, though. I think they have the matchup edge here. Really across the board. The money's not agreeing with that, but you also have a situational advantage from Seattle. Like I said, I tend to want to fade teams that are returning home from the road. I think in baseball, it's actually worse for teams that are kind of bad teams that are the underdog when they're in that return home spot. I think those teams tend to do even worse, which makes sense because they're the underdog. They're the underdog for a reason. It means they are the lesser team. Seattle's around minus 120 something here. That's the way I would lean. Moneyline Seattle. It makes sense to me. 78% of tickets and only 76% of the cash on Seattle, though. So the money does not agree with that. But I think that is what I would have as an opinion in that game. Dirty Sock, what's up? You won $21 on that because you messed up the calculation. Use that. Use Johnny Ma's baseball calculator, man. I don't have it up right now because I don't have a split bet play today. But that's the tool that I use. It's very simple. You know, no bells and whistles on it, but it works. Gets the job done. It's intuitive enough to me. So that's the one that I use. All right. Red Sox and Yankees, of course, the big weekend series. Red Sox looking for possible revenge here because the Yankees already swept the Red Sox in Fenway. And if you've been following this series over the years, even though the Yankees have been the better team in recent years, the Red Sox have typically played pretty well against the Yankees. They tend to step up their game against the Yankees, and the Red Sox, I believe they've won the season series the last couple of years against the Yankees, despite winding up with a worse record. The Red Sox tend to do well against the Yankees, but that didn't happen in the first series here. Maybe with the Red Sox starting to hit a little bit better, maybe it'll happen here. The Red Sox are traveling, but only from Boston and New York. Both teams played yesterday, so there's no rest advantage here. Yankees are staying at home, though, so I guess, there's that travel edge there, but it's not a huge deal to travel from Boston to New York, though. The Funghua bus doesn't exist anymore, though. That was a fun ride, man. It was this cheap Chinese bus line or whatever that went between New York and Boston. No frills whatsoever. I think you could do it for like under $20, and it was a mess. The type of people that you would run into on that bus. The bus would break down. You could literally just ask the bus driver to stop at a Burger King, and they would do it. That's an experience that I think you only have if you are from Boston or New York. But yeah, you can also take the train, but it's way more expensive. Anyway, Red Sox are coming off a bad loss yesterday to Baltimore, but a lot of it was because Brian Bayo was pitching. All right, so he's not pitching in this series, although he actually, I think, does okay against the Yankees. But whatever. The Red Sox do not have Brian Bayo pitching in this series. The Yankees are staying at home. The Yankees did just end a losing streak of a couple games by salvaging the last game against Cleveland and not covering, which that pisses me off because as an anti-Yankee person, you have to deal with your play being a push and the Yankees win. Come on, man. Like if the Yankees are going to win, at least cover the number for you. You know what I mean? I hate that. Anyway, pitching-wise, the Red Sox have a bullpen advantage. They're ranked 4th in bullpen. Like I said, they have the number 2 bullpen ERA right now. Yankees bullpen is decent. They're 15th. Hitting-wise, obviously, the Yankees are way better. They're number 2, and they're typically really good at home, although not so much recently, apparently. Red Sox are number 22 in offense. They're starting to move up a little bit, though, doing a little bit better recently. And the Red Sox have been better offensively on the road this year. Red Sox used 2 guys out of the bullpen yesterday. Their better arms are available here. The Yankees used 3. Yankees did use their closer yesterday, though. The Red Sox have Sonny Gray on the mound. You know, I think the Red Sox do have a slight pitching edge here. They have the more established pitcher here, even though he is getting old. Gray is having a decent season here. 3.06 ERA, 1.2 whip. He's not as good on the road, but 3.6 ERA is not exactly bad. He's been good over the last month. In May, he had a good month. 2 ERA, had 21 hits in 27 innings. Red Sox won all but one of his starts. And that was against a Minnesota team that was very familiar with him, and a team that he used to be on, actually. 28 strikeouts and 9 walks over the month. Pretty good. His overall numbers are fine as well. His strikeout rate, not too high, but, you know, I mean, he's not a huge strikeout pitcher. Walk rate isn't too bad. His hit rate is low. He's been all right overall. Against the Yankees, he's definitely been an improvement. Like, again, Red Sox made some of these offseason moves like Gray, Suarez. I think those were good moves, man. They definitely have a much improved starting pitching rotation this year. And Crochet needs to come back, and then their starting pitching will be even better because that means Bayo will be out of the rotation. Gray against the Yankees has been fairly good. 105 at-bats, 30 strikeouts, 11 walks, though. Not too good there, but 248 batting average, allowed 688 OPS. Gray has done all right against the Yankees here, and Judge is one of the guys that does a lot of damage to him. And you have to see if Judge is actually going to play or not. I don't know did he play yesterday? I don't know. He did not. So that's something to keep in mind. Judge has an injury, a rib injury. I have no idea how long he's going to be out. So he's one of the Yankees. Obviously, he's their best hitter, but he's also like their best hitter against Gray specifically, which is not that surprising. So if he's out of the lineup, that will take a little bit away from the Yankees' offense, which maybe that did have some effect yesterday. I didn't think it would have that much of an effect. Like, I still thought the Yankees without Judge would still be able to hit Slade Ciccone, and they still didn't. So I don't know. Yankees are going with Ryan Weathers here. He's been pretty good. 3.52 ERA, 1.14 whip. He's been solid at home, 3.27 home ERA. He did give up 5 runs in his last outing, but he gave up 3 home runs in that A's stadium. So I think you can throw that start out. Like, I would not fault him for that start. He also had 10 strikeouts in that one, so that was a high strikeout rate. He did not do well at home against Toronto, though, 2 home starts ago. That's not a good sign, at least. But it looks like it was more of a blip, though. I mean, Toronto's a bad offense, but that was maybe a blip because Weathers has been pretty good overall. He's allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in all but those 2 outings and 1 other outing, which was actually at home, though, against Anaheim. But he had 10 strikeouts in that one, too. He's got a high strikeout rate, dude. Well over 1 per inning, well below 1 hit allowed per inning. Pretty low walk rate, but he's allowed kind of too many home runs here. But overall, he's pitched well. Probably better than you would think, actually. And May, his numbers are kind of the same as what his numbers look like overall. His numbers against the Red Sox, they only have 3 guys who have ever faced him, 13 at-bats, but those 3 hitters have done damage to him. All of them have homered off of him. They've hit 385 off him with a 16-15 OPS, 3 strikeouts, no walks. So Weathers has actually struggled against Wilson Contreras, Kiner Falefa, and Monasterio are the 3 guys that the Red Sox have that have actually faced him before. I'm going to lean to the Red Sox slightly here. Could be a potential bounce back for the Red Sox here. I think they have a slight pitching edge here maybe in the starting pitching, but I think the bullpen advantage is also there. So if it's a close game, they might be able to get it done here. The Yankees are around -140. It kind of looks too easy to play the Yankees. And again, I think the Red Sox, you got to think they're going to be motivated here. A road revenge spot in your big rivalry series, you know, your big rivalry matchup here after getting swept at home. Yeah, and then there was one other thing I was going to say. I forget what else I was just about to say, though. Oh, but it kind of looks too easy to play the Yankees at a price like this, and the Red Sox are in last place in the division, and the Yankees are in first place, which I think that's going to be maybe an extra motivator to the Red Sox here, and it is possible the Yankees take the Red Sox a little bit lightly after sweeping them in Boston and the fact that they have a huge lead over the Red Sox in the division here, although I know the Yankees' lead is not much over the Rays right now, but whatever. I'm going to lean slightly towards the Red Sox, and they are getting the money, it looks like. I'm surprised they have a public ticket percentage, though. Like, is that just because Gray is the more well-known pitcher? I have no idea. Usually he doesn't garner that much public betting support, though. 71% of tickets, 77% of the cash on the Red Sox. If I was going to do it, yeah, it would be moneyline Red Sox at a small underdog price. Basically just taking the shot with that. Baltimore at Toronto, as the AL East has two matchups this weekend. The Rays getting left out and having to play their National League geographic rival. Baltimore and Toronto just played each other, and I believe they split a 4-game series in Baltimore, I'm pretty sure. So motivation-wise, I think both teams will show up here. We actually have the same pitching matchup that we had a winner on during that series. I gave Toronto out as a first 5 play with Savage against Young, which is the same pitching matchup here. And that got the job done. We had the lead at the end of 5 with Toronto, I believe, up 2-1. But then they blew the game. I think they were actually up 5-1, I think, in the 9th inning of that game. And then Baltimore exploded in the 9th inning and won 6-5. Even though Baltimore is actually the team that has the lesser bullpen here. So that was, a bit of a crazy result, but we did go first 5 because I didn't like Toronto's bullpen rest scenario in that game, but luckily we made the right call on that game, got the win on that one, because I thought the biggest advantage was the starting pitching matchup. But does that mean I want to do that here? I don't really. I'm not going to give out a play on this one this time, even though generally, yeah, I would prefer Savage over Young generally, but I got some issues with this one. Now, as far as the spot, I don't like Toronto's spot. They're returning home from the road where, yes, they went to Baltimore, won the first 2 games, even though they should have won the 3rd game. This is the one I was just talking about where they had that lead at the end of 5. They were winning 5-1 in the 9th inning and lost 6-5. So Toronto really should have won that series 3-1, but they wound up splitting, and then they went to Atlanta. Tough series there. Now they're returning home from that, so it's not a great spot for Toronto, really, even though I know it's a divisional matchup. These teams are tied in the standings, too. So, actually, my mistake, by the way, the Yankees are still behind Tampa. I did not think they were, but my mistake there. I just assume the Yankees are in first place because I know they're better than Tampa, and Tampa's fallen off recently. Anyway, yeah, so Toronto's returning home from the road. That's usually a negative spot, but maybe they'll show up anyway because it is a divisional matchup. Baltimore is traveling in from Boston, which I think is a little bit of a better spot for them, just continuing the road trip here. As far as the pitching, like I said, the Orioles don't have a good bullpen. They are 21st here. Their ERA is pretty high. It's in the high 4s. That's not good. Toronto's bullpen is a little bit better at 10th. Not the greatest bullpen, but decent. Baltimore is the better offense, though. They're number 11, ranged by OPS. Toronto is 24th. Looking at the bullpens, both teams played yesterday, right? Yeah, Toronto used a ton of guys out of the bullpen yesterday, though. They went with a bullpen game yesterday, remember? So that doesn't set up well for Toronto. Same thing as the last time we had this pitching matchup. That was the reason why I only went first 5 with Savage, because Toronto had gone with the bullpen game the game before that, too. So their bullpen is just taxed right now, man. Baltimore only used 3 guys out of the, 4, but they only used Cano for 1 pitch. Baltimore's got the more rested bullpen, but the worst bullpen. So I would probably fade both bullpens here in whatever I was doing here. I would avoid the bullpens. Baltimore's got Brandon Young pitching, like I said. He's got a good ERA, 3.35, but his whip is not good, 1.37. Although he's been pitching better recently, and he's got some talent. It just hasn't really come to fruition, but he is starting to pitch a bit better, even though his whip is too high. He's been a little bit better on the road, 3.07 road ERA. He pitched pretty well in May, except his walk number was too high. He had 2.86 ERA. His team won all 5 of his starts, including that one against Toronto. But again, they had to overcome a big deficit and win in extra innings. But Young pitched well in that game, man. Savage just outdueled him just enough that we got the win in that one with the first 5. But Young went 28 in the third innings in that month, 24 hits allowed, 24 strikeouts, 12 walks, though. That walk number is still concerning, man. Over the course of the season, his strikeout rate is lower than that. His hit rate is still below 1 per inning, and his walk rate is a bit high. So do with that information what you want, but it does look like he's improving, but his walk number needs to improve still. Against Toronto, he still does not have good numbers, even though he pitched well against them in that last game. He's got 45 at-bats against them now, 333 batting average allowed, 762 OPS, 9-2 strikeout walk ratio. But given that Young is not that familiar to Toronto, and Toronto just saw him, Toronto might make adjustments and hit him better this time. So I don't know if I really want to trust Young here. Savage, like I said, is pitching for Toronto. I think he's the better pitcher. He's still not totally established yet because he's only 22, but he's pitched, in a World Series already. So he's got some pretty good experience. He's got a 2.19 ERA, 1.16 whip. Not as good at home, but still a 2.81 ERA, obviously, is still good. He's given up 2 or fewer earned runs in all but 1 outing, or he did that over the course of, over the course of the entire season. That's what he's done. And he's allowed more than 1 only twice. Like I said, he gave up 1 earned run to Baltimore, but he actually didn't really pitch that well. He had 7 walks in that outing in 5 innings pitched, so he did kind of escape. So we kind of got lucky on that one, but he did hold him to 2 hits and had 4 strikeouts. But his walk rate is too high, too. He's got a good hit rate overall, less than 1 per inning. His walk rate is definitely too high, and his strikeout rate is pretty good. So the walks are the problem with him. He's got to get that under control a bit. Numbers against Baltimore, only 13 at-bats against them. So I think the only time they saw him was that outing last time out, which is going to be a disadvantage to him this time, I think. He had 4 strikeouts, 7 walks. Like I said, that's not good. 13 at-bats against them. 154 average is good. 604 OPS allowed. That's all good for him, but the walk number was bad. And the thing that's bad about this is, like I said, the familiarity. Like, when he went into that game, they'd never seen him before, so that was an advantage to him. But now that Baltimore just saw him, and now they're seeing him again immediately for the second time, I think the advantage goes more towards the hitters. So I think if I was going to play this game, I think I might go over the total if I was going to play this game. The money's coming in towards Toronto. I don't like that idea. I just don't like the spot, the return home spot. But we have 77% of tickets on Baltimore. Again, I don't know why. Is it just public likes hitting? I don't know. You'd think the public would want to back Savage, but maybe they still don't really know who he is, even though they made that World Series run last year. 65% of the cash on Baltimore. So the money's indicating towards Toronto here. They are favored. I think they're favored too heavily, though, to be honest. I know Savage is good, but I don't know, around a minus 150 favorite for Toronto in a return home spot. I don't know. It still seems like they're kind of riding what they did last year, and they're not as good of a team this year. Total's pretty reasonable, though. The total's around 8, and like I just showed you, both bullpens set up pretty poorly in this game. And then Young looks like he doesn't have good matchup numbers here. And then I think both starting pitchers could be at a little bit of a disadvantage because they both just face these offenses. So if I was going to play the game, I think I would go over more than anything else in that game. All right. Tampa Bay is playing Miami, as I alluded to. This is also potentially a revenge series because Miami lost 2 out of 3 at Tampa Bay not too long ago. So maybe Miami has a little bit of a motivational aspect to this, but they are returning home from a road trip. They have the longest road trip return spot here. Miami was in Toronto, then in New York to face the Mets. Then they just, after getting swept by the Mets, they swept Washington, who isn't as good Washington's not as good at home, and that was where that series was. Now Miami's returning home, so yes, it is a return home spot from a long road trip, which I always talk about. That is a negative. You return back home, especially when you're the inferior team, which Miami is. That can add to the negativity of it. They have to get back to home life, whatever. But maybe the fact that they're facing their Florida rival and they lost them last time, maybe they will overcome that a little bit, but Miami also has a huge starting pitching disadvantage here, so I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Tampa Bay is coming in from playing Detroit, and I believe both teams were off yesterday, so we have both teams are rested here, so something to consider there. Tampa Bay just got swept by Detroit, so this might be a positive spot for Tampa Bay, just going out on the road here, so the spot definitely sets up a bit better for Tampa here, even though Miami might have a little bit of a revenge aspect to this. Getting swept at home by Detroit is just ridiculous, dude. Even though, like I said, I don't think Tampa's as good as their record would indicate. I think they're a decent team. They do well for the amount of talent they have. But like I said, they'd won a lot of close games, so I expected some regression from Tampa Bay. But still, this is a positive spot. They're not having to travel that far, only staying in Florida, coming off a bad home series. Yeah, situation sets up better for Tampa Bay here. Tampa Bay, like I said, yeah, well, both bullpens are rested here. I shouldn't even be looking at that because it doesn't matter. Miami has the better bullpen, though. Miami's 5th in bullpen whip, although their ERA has gone up a little bit. Tampa Bay's bullpen hasn't been very good, though. They're 17th, and their bullpen ERA is like a run higher than Miami's. Offensively, Tampa Bay is better. They're 10th. Miami is 18th or tied for 18th. So all things to keep in mind here. Drew Rasmussen is getting the start for Tampa Bay. He let us down last time, man. Gave out an under in his game against Anaheim, and he did not do that well in that one, but generally he is good. He's got a 3.36 ERA, 1.02 whip. I think he's Tampa Bay's most consistent starting pitcher because they don't really have great starting pitchers. He's better on the road this year, too. 3.13 road ERA. Florida is also Miami is also a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Now, yeah, like I said, last outing we had a first 5 under. Rasmussen did not help us out there. Gave up 5 runs in 4 innings, but he only allowed 4 hits and 2 walks and had 4 strikeouts. So he wasn't exactly terrible in that outing. I think he got a bit unlucky, and he was coming off a 7-inning shutout against the Yankees, which I didn't think mattered that much because his pitch count wasn't really that high, and he's historically done pretty well against the Yankees. By the way, I think we did have a winner on that Yankee game, though, so there is that at least. I think we had the under in that game, so that was a winner. Or maybe a first 5 under, whatever it was. But yeah, overall, I think Rasmussen's good. He's consistent. He's allowed well below 1 hit per inning. His walk rate's low. His strikeout rate is decent, even though he's not really a strikeout guy. And those numbers just continue to be pretty consistent. Against Miami, they have 52 at-bats against him. Miami has actually been able to hit him pretty well. Miami has a 308 average against him, 711 OPS. So I was considering maybe Tampa here because I was like, well, Tampa has a situational edge here. All the stuff I already talked about. And I much prefer Rasmussen generally over Gusto, who was pitching for Miami here. But these matchup numbers just have to keep me off of the game, man. For whatever reason, Rasmussen doesn't do well against Miami. 52 at-bats against them, 308 average, allowed 711 OPS. That's not good. 7 strikeouts, 3 walks. So this is not a great matchup for him. He did just face Miami in that previous series that I mentioned, and he got a win, but he was pretty mediocre in that start. He went 5 1/3, gave up 7 hits, 2 walks, only 2 strikeouts, and 2 earned runs. So he was not horrible, but he wasn't great in that outing. Then we have Ryan Gusto, former Houston Astro, pitching for the Marlins here. Gusto's not good, dude. I mean, you look at his career. His career started last year at the age of 26, probably because Houston needed an arm. He had 14 starts, and he had some bullpen appearances. Then he got traded to Miami and made 3 starts with them. His numbers were just bad. His career ERA is in the high 5s. His whip is around 1.5. This is not good stuff, and this year he hasn't been good either. 9 ERA, 1.67 whip, although he's only pitched 3 innings so far, all of it in relief. Does have 4 strikeouts and no walks in 3 innings, but 5 hits, 3 earned runs allowed. I wouldn't trust him, though. His career numbers, there aren't that many. He doesn't have a huge sample size here, but he's not good. His numbers against Tampa Bay, they really haven't seen him much. They have 6 at-bats against him. They only have 1 hit, a single from Aranda. 3 walks, no strikeouts, 167 average, 611 OPS. It's such a small sample size. I know he's unfamiliar to them, but Gusto, his unfamiliarity last year did not help him much at all. So I still like Tampa Bay in this game if I was going to play it, but the matchup numbers do worry me a bit there. Money is coming in towards Tampa. I think I would go first 5, though, because Miami does have a better bullpen. I know both bullpens are rested, but first 5 makes sense to me. You get Rasmussen against probably Gusto is not even going to go full start here. Like, he'll probably go a few innings, and then you're going to get Miami's bullpen immediately. Well, but given that that's the case, maybe you could go full game still on this. Given that Miami's bullpen is probably coming into the game first, you could do that, but I don't trust Tampa Bay's bullpen, though, so I still think first 5 is still probably preferable. You're looking at around minus 130 something here on Tampa Bay. I don't know what the price is on the first 5, though. It might be a little bit more expensive because the odds makers know Tampa's bigger advantages in the first 5, I would assume. 87% of tickets, 92% of the cash on Tampa. You could go with a minus half a run line with Tampa in the first 5, too. I switched to doing that if the money line hits that minus 150 threshold. That's usually my cutoff where I start looking towards the run line instead. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I think Tampa first 5 in some capacity is what makes the most sense in that game. Weathers lost by giving up a home run. Boone left him in. And then Aaron Boone, I mean, I don't know. He's not that great of a manager, I don't think. I don't know. He might have left Weathers in too long. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if I really see it as a bounce back spot. I don't know. I mean, he had a good outing last time out, didn't he? Or wait, what was I talking? I don't even remember. I don't even remember what I just saw. I don't know. I don't really. What I said about that game. I mean, that was basically I just overlooked that game completely. Like, because I just throw it out because it was a game if he was really good in the game, I would say that's a huge positive because it was at the A's stadium, which is a really difficult pitching environment. But I look at it, and the fact that he had a ton of strikeouts and not that many hits allowed, whatever, too many walks, though, basically I just throw it out because most of the damage was home runs that are just because of what that ballpark is. So I kind of just ignore it. Like, yeah, he didn't do that well in that outing there. I don't really consider it a bounce back spot or anything. I mean, maybe he gets a little bit extra motivated for a rivalry game against the Red Sox, but my handicap is what it is. I lean Red Sox in that game. It's not a play for me, though. Also, I just hope they win as a fan, but, you know, I don't have high hopes, though. All right, Atlanta and Pittsburgh. This is a good series, actually. I mean, the public is going to like this series because it's 2 good hitting teams. Atlanta, not so much at home, though. Their offense hasn't been as good at home. They did just lose to Toronto yesterday, but they are staying at home. They won that series anyway. Pittsburgh had yesterday off, though. Or no, sorry, my mistake. Neither team was off yesterday. My mistake. Pittsburgh played Houston yesterday. Pittsburgh's been hot. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. They beat Houston yesterday. Jared Jones, I think, put a good start in yesterday there. Pittsburgh traveling now from Houston to Atlanta. So, yes, both teams did play yesterday. So there's no rest advantage here. Atlanta has, I guess, a travel edge because they are staying at home. They also have the better bullpen. They used 3 guys out of the bullpen yesterday. Pittsburgh only used 1, so I think they just went Jones, Mlodzinski, and that's it. I think Mlodzinski got moved to the bullpen when Jones came back. So maybe Jones didn't go that deep in the game. I don't know. I'd have to look at the box score. I haven't really done it yet. Bullpen-wise, yeah, Atlanta is number 1 in bullpen, at least in whip. They're the 3rd best bullpen ERA, I believe. They're better than Pittsburgh, who's number 18 in bullpen, not particularly good. Atlanta is number 3 in offense, and Pittsburgh is number 4. So these are offenses that have been good this year. Starting pitching, this is the type of pitching matchup that actually is better than you would think. Like looking at it, the public's going to look at this and be like, whatever. Because these are 2 guys that are just, you know, they're just kind of stable, like kind of junk pitchers, but these are the types of pitchers that kind of go under the radar here. Mitch Keller is pitching for the Pirates. I think he's pretty solid. His ERA is not that great, 4.35, but his whip is pretty good, 1.17. He's been good on the road, 3.14 road ERA. He struggled more at home so far this season. He got beat up last time out against Minnesota. He was just way too hittable, and that was at home. And really, 3 of his last 4 starts haven't been good, though. So that does kind of concern me a little bit because 1 was at home against Colorado. They don't hit that well on the road. 1 was on the road against St. Louis, who hasn't been hitting well recently, and that's a more pitcher-friendly park. So I have some concerns here with Keller. But over the month of May, he still had a 26-9 strikeout walk ratio, so his command numbers were still good, which indicates that his 5.5 ERA during the month was a little bit misleading. He had 32 hits allowed in 34 and a third innings, and that's including giving up 10 hits in 4 innings against Minnesota, so his hit rate was still all right. And Pittsburgh won 4 of the 6 games still. Numbers on the season, his hit rate is good. It's low. It's well below 1 per inning. Walk rate is a little bit too high. His strikeout rate is not that high. So he's not really a strikeout pitcher. But again, he is better than people think he is. His numbers against the Braves are not really that good, though. 105 at bats, so they have a lot of experience against him. 27 strikeouts, 8 walks. That's pretty good. 276 average, though, and 813 OPS. That's on the not so good side. So Atlanta's offense does have a bit of an advantage against him there. Martin Perez is getting the start for Atlanta. He's been surprisingly good, at least with what his numbers are. His surface numbers, 2.79 ERA, 1.06 whip. I mean, given that he's a 35-year-old journeyman junk pitcher, I don't expect his numbers to continue to be this good, but he's obviously at least serviceable here. He's been really good at home, though, somehow. He has a .82 home ERA, and he's allowed more than 2 earned runs only twice this season. Once was on the road at Arizona, which is a hitter-friendly ballpark. The other was at Miami, which is not hitter-friendly, but and not a good offense. But he did have 10 strikeouts in that game. Overall, he's been decent. His hit rate is really good. He's allowed way below 1 hit per inning, which continued through the month of May pretty much. His strikeout rate is fairly low, especially given that he had 10 in 1 start against Miami. But he's not a strikeout pitcher, really. And his walk rate is not that bad either. So overall, he's been all right. But again, I mean, he doesn't have stuff that like blows people away, you know. But again, that means that the public does overlook him a little bit. But I tend to like guys that go out there and just dominate. That sounds gay, but that's not exactly what he does. Against Pittsburgh, he does not have very good numbers. It's not a huge sample. 27 at bats, 6 hitters have faced him in this lineup. 7 strikeouts, 5 walks, 333 average allowed, 882 OPS. So those numbers aren't really that good. So, you know, I'm staying away from the game. I could see it going either way because you could make an argument that both pitchers should do all right here and they're both under the radar, but their matchup numbers don't look good. So there's also an argument towards an over here. Total's 8.5. If you weigh the matchup more heavily than what these pitchers generally are, then the over makes more sense here. You also have at least one kind of bad bullpen here with Pittsburgh. And if you do go over, at least both teams did play yesterday. So the bullpens, you know, don't have full rest here. Atlanta's around a minus 140 something favorite here. Public is definitely going to be on that side. We have 90% of tickets on Atlanta, 93% of the cash on them. Public will pretty much play Atlanta, I would assume, in basically any game in this series, unless it's Paul Skeens pitching for Pittsburgh. I think Skeens is going at some point in the series over the weekend here. But, yeah, I mean, I don't have a good read here on the side. It seems like both Atlanta has a slight advantage there, I guess, as far as having the better bullpen, having more rest. So I guess a slight lean for me towards Atlanta, maybe. But I don't know, man. It's tough. And, like, both starting pitchers are guys that, like I said, they're both similar in that they both go under the radar. They're not huge strikeout guys. They've both been around for a while, but they both have bad matchup numbers. So that just seems like it's a difficult game to handicap for me. All right, A's at Houston as we have a AL West series starting here. Both these teams played yesterday. Houston is staying at home after losing at home to Pittsburgh. Could possibly be a bounce back here. The A's are also ahead of Houston in the standings, so Houston might have a little bit extra advantage or a little bit extra motivation here, I should say. The A's are traveling in from Chicago, and they won that series against the Cubs and almost swept it. Wound up losing yesterday close, 7-6. So I think the spot is a little bit worse for the A's here. We have 2 bullpens that are bullpens that I would be looking to avoid. The A's used 4 guys out of their bullpen. Houston used 3, but Houston's bullpen is still debatably still the worst. They're ranked 26th in whip, but they still have the worst bullpen ERA. The A's are not that much better, though, at 22nd, although their ERA is close to a run better. So the A's do have the better bullpen, but both bullpens stink. Houston's 7th in offense. The A's are 9th. So this looks like it could be a series where maybe some overs might make sense here in this series, depending on the matchups and whatever. And I know the last couple of times I said that I did not have an over in any of those series, but we'll see. The A's look like they're going with a bullpen game here, and I think it's because Luis Severino is injured, because I think it would be his turn in the rotation here. Well, it's interesting because I looked 5 games ago, JT Ginn actually pitched for the A's, but he pitched yesterday, and Severino pitched the game before that. So I think they skipped Severino in the rotation, I guess waited to see if he was going to be healthy or not, and I guess now he's not, so he's on the DL. I don't know. So now the A's are kind of forced into this bullpen game, which is not good when you don't have a good bullpen anyway. Jack Perkins is getting the start here for the A's. He's got not good numbers, so that's not good either. 5.46 ERA, 1.21 WHIP. I wouldn't really dive into his numbers too much here because I don't think he's going to pitch that long here. He last pitched on the 31st of May, though, so he does have a full starter's rest here if they want him to go deeper. He did go almost 5 innings once this season against Seattle, so I guess theoretically he could do that to try to save their bullpen, and he actually wasn't horrible in that outing. He had 7 strikeouts, no walks. I still don't trust him, and I don't really know how deep he's going to go here. He's been a little bit better on the road, though, for what that's worth, but these are basically all relief appearances. 4.63 road ERA here. He has not made any start this season. So, I don't know if the nerves might get to him as well if he's going to start for the first time this season, but he did have 4 starts last year, and his numbers last year actually weren't that bad. So he might be an okay pitcher here, but I don't know. I still don't really want to trust what looks like an A's bullpen game. Houston is 0 for 4 lifetime against Perkins, by the way, for whatever that's worth. Only Cam Smith, Trammell, and Christian Walker have faced him before. 0 for 4 with a strikeout. But yeah, I don't really trust that. Peter Lambert is pitching for Houston. He's actually been pretty decent. 3.77 ERA, 1.21 WHIP. He's finally kind of emerging at least a little bit after big-time struggles at the beginning of his career, and I think some injuries too. Having to pitch at Coors Field doesn't help either, and now he's 29 on Houston, but he's having a good season, although he hasn't been as good at home. 4.2 home ERA. But generally, he's been pretty good. He's allowed more than 3 earned runs only twice. He's got almost 1 strikeout per inning, well below 1 hit per inning, but his walk rate is too high, so that's the one concern with him. And that continues to be the case up through now. Like in the month of May, that was also the case. So similar numbers there. He's got to get those walks under control, but he is pitching okay here. Going up against the A's, they don't have that much experience against him. They only have 6 at-bats against him. 5 of their hitters have faced him. The only hit is Zach Geloff, 1 for 1 with a single. They have 1 strikeout, 1 walk against him, 167 average, 452 OPS. Very small sample, but I think I prefer Houston's setup here. I don't know if I would trust the bullpen here, though, but Houston has a travel advantage here, and that they don't have to travel. I think I still prefer Lambert, who's been a decent starter at least this season, over what is pretty sure to be pretty much an A's bullpen game here. So I'm going to lean Houston in the first 5 here. I don't want their bullpen. I know the A's bullpen's probably coming in early in this game, and they're not to be trusted. But yeah, I think I would lean first 5 Houston here. I don't trust their bullpen either. The money does not agree with this, though. Houston, 95% of tickets, 91% of the cash on them. So they're a public side, which doesn't make sense to me. Why would the public be on the team with the lesser record? Both teams have had good offenses. I don't know. I don't understand that. It's basically about a pick-em price here, though. So basically pick the winner. I'm not sure if I buy those public percentages, though, like I said. So I don't know. First 5 Houston would be my lean in that game, but I don't want to make that a play. I do have 2 plays, but not yet. Cincinnati at St. Louis, the battle between the 2 most overrated teams in the National League, I would say. Like the 2 teams that started off overperforming big time. This is a divisional matchup. I think these teams will show up. Both teams probably will. St. Louis just won a game against Texas to finish their series. They had yesterday off. Both teams were off yesterday. St. Louis is staying at home here. Cincinnati is traveling in. from home after losing a series to Kansas City. St. Louis lost their series to Texas, but they won the last game. So both teams coming off losing series here. They're both rested, at least, like I said, but neither bullpen is good. So even with the rest, I don't trust these bullpens. Cincinnati is 28th out of 30. St. Louis is a bit better at 19th. Both teams have not great ERAs, though, both above 4 at least. Hitting-wise, both teams, St. Louis is fallen off a little bit. My mistake. They're down to 21st. Cincinnati is 14th. Brady Singer is pitching for Cincinnati here. He hasn't been good on the season at all, really. 6.18 ERA, 1.69 whip. That is really bad. Putting way too many guys on base, but he's actually been okay at home, which is really weird because Cincinnati has a hitter-friendly ballpark. He's been way worse on the road for whatever reason. 7.67 road ERA. So you could potentially look to fade him here. However, St. Louis is a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Singer has not pitched well really recently. I mean, he's allowed way too many guys to reach base. Cincinnati's lost all of his starts recently, all 5 of them in May. He allowed well over 1 hit per inning. Walk rate wasn't too bad. Strikeout rate was a little bit low. Over the course of the season, that's been the same. He's allowed a ton of home runs, 16 home runs. He's a fly ball pitcher. But again, that may mean that facing St. Louis in St. Louis might actually help him because it's a less home run conducive ballpark. So we'll see. But he's still been way too hittable. He's allowed too many hits. His strikeout rate is not that high. His walk rate is okay. But he's got to be less hittable, man. His numbers against St. Louis in his career are actually good, though. In 48 at-bats, 208 batting average allowed. That is really good. 660 OPS is not too bad. 15-4 strikeout walk ratio. So Singer does seem to have a matchup edge here. I don't think I trust him, though, because he's in awful form. He's been awful on the road. But again, if he's going to pitch well, it should be in a matchup like this where he has the matchup numbers. He's in a pitcher-friendly park. He's going up against Kyle Leahy, who I don't think is good either. He's got a 4.25 ERA for St. Louis, but his whip is obviously too high, 1.56 whip. So that's not good, but he is pitching better at home, 3.28 ERA at home. So the home road splits favor Leahy here. But he's not really pitching that well either, I would say. I mean, he had 3 good starts in a row to start May, but 2 of them were against San Diego and Kansas City. In San Diego's pitcher-friendly ballpark, and then Kansas City was one of the worst offenses in baseball, especially on the road. So I don't put that much weight into that. Then Leahy faced Cincinnati, and they beat him up a bit for 5 runs in 5 innings. But he did have 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, so maybe it wasn't as bad as maybe it looked. I think we won on an over in that game, by the way. Leahy did not really do that well in his last start against the Cubs. He did hold him to 1 earned run, but he threw too many pitches. He was out of there before the end of the 5th inning. Gave up 6 hits. Didn't walk anybody, though. 4 strikeouts. But overall, yeah, I don't trust Leahy. He's given up over 1 hit per inning. His walk rate is too high. His strikeout rate is low. Over the past month in May, though, his numbers were a little bit better for sure. He had a 2.81 ERA. Did allow more than 1 hit per inning. Still, his walk rate was still a bit too high. And his strikeout rate was a little bit better. But still, I don't trust Leahy. His numbers against Cincinnati. Whoops, not Cleveland. The other Ohio team. His numbers are not that good against Cincinnati. 41 at-bats, 293 average allowed is way too high. 724 OPS is not as high as you would think, though, because he's allowed a lot of singles to them. 11 strikeouts, 3 walks. You know, I mean, I still think this game does kind of read as an over game here. There are definitely some reasons to not trust either starter here. The money's coming in on St. Louis for whatever that's worth. 67% of tickets, 93% of the cash on them, even though Singer has the matchup numbers that are better, though. Minus 140 something is the price here. St. Louis does have a bullpen advantage. They don't have that against many teams, but the Reds are one team where I think they do have a bullpen advantage against them. But I don't know. Because the money's coming in on St. Louis here, I think an over does make sense, even though that goes against Leahy being a better home pitcher. But over makes the most sense. I mean, neither bullpen is very trustworthy, although I know it's a rest scenario, and I don't love playing overs when you have teams that were off the previous day because the offenses can cool off a little bit. The bullpens get rested. But, you know, these are still not trustworthy bullpens. really neither starter is trustworthy. The books threw a total out there of 9, even though it's a pitcher-friendly ballpark in St. Louis, although the money has kind of come in towards the under a little bit here. But, yeah, I mean, it's 9. 9 is fairly high, especially for a St. Louis game. So odds makers are kind of telling you something with that number. So, yeah, I think an over makes sense in that game if I was going to do anything with it. But I do not want to. Next game up, Apple TV. This will be one of my plays, as we don't have any plays until the 8:15 slate here, Eastern time. We're going to go to Cleveland and Texas. Oh, it's a game in Texas. Between two teams that don't really hit too well. What are we doing here? Yeah. Under is what I'm going to call for in this game. This will be one of my plays. Under 7.5. You can find it at a very reasonable price out there, getting under that hook, 7 being the key number. I'm sure you'll find a decent number on that. I saw minus 105 out there at, I forget which book it was. It was one of the big, primary books there. Now, yes, neither team is very good offensively. Both teams have okay bullpens, although Cleveland did play yesterday, I know. Cleveland is coming in from playing against the Yankees, but that could be maybe a bit of a distraction spot. So that's another thing here. Cleveland is coming off a big series in the Bronx, so if they're going to be distracted at all here with the travel and whatever, that can affect their hitting negatively a bit. Texas is returning home from the road, although they were only in St. Louis, but they're kind of in a negative spot too because they lost a 5-game win streak with that loss to St. Louis. So I think that could be a momentum stopper. And they weren't even really putting up that many runs in those games that they were winning. So I think this could definitely be low scoring. We know that games in Texas have been notoriously low scoring, even though back in that last homestand against Kansas City, every game went over. I know. So I'm hoping that trend does not continue here. Kind of surprising because Kansas City also doesn't hit well, but Kansas City's pitching is not that good. Cleveland's pitching is better, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But yeah, Texas, their home games have been the lowest scoring in baseball. I think they're still one of the lowest scoring home teams in baseball. I think maybe the Red Sox surpassed them, but the Red Sox have been hitting well at home recently, so Texas might again be the lowest scoring home team, and they're also one of the teams that allows the fewest runs at home. Their home games, I still think, are averaging lower than 6 runs a game. So I like all that. But I think the matchup is conducive to this. Texas was off yesterday, so they have a good bullpen, and it's rested now. Cleveland's did not rest fully yesterday, but they did only use 2 guys out of the bullpen, and all their better relievers pitched in the game on Wednesday when they had a save situation. So their better relievers are probably available here. So I think both bullpens are okay to be included in this one. Texas is ranked 9th in bullpen. They're a strong bullpen. Cleveland is not as good, but they're not horrible. They're 11th. So we'll keep them in this equation. And then the offenses, like I said, neither of them are prolific offenses. Texas is 24th, Cleveland 26th. So that helps us out here. And I like the starting pitching matchup, especially Parker Messick for Cleveland. He's been really good, 2.21 ERA, 1.07 whip. I like these young, talented he's got an even better ERA on the road, 1.91 road ERA, so the home road split set up well for him here. He's allowed more than 2 earned runs only twice this season and never more than 4 earned runs, and that was a start at the A's stadium, so you can kind of give him a pass for that. Overall, he's got over 1 strikeout per inning, well below 1 hit per inning. His walk rate is a little bit high. So, yeah, well below 1 hit per inning, And, yeah, his walk rate is a little bit too high, but he's just, he hasn't had any starts where he's had way too many walks or anything like that, really. So he's kind of evening it out. Cleveland did win 4 of his 6 starts in the month of May, for whatever that's worth. He continued pitching pretty much the same, although you'd like to see his walk number go down a little bit, but I'm still okay with this. He's a good pitcher, and he has an unfamiliarity edge here. Texas has never seen him before, so these, again, young, talented pitchers, when these hitters haven't faced him before, they can tend to struggle a little bit to try to figure those pitchers out. It tends to be even more of a struggle when the pitcher is a lefty because you don't see lefties as much, and their arm angles tend to be weirder and harder to pick up, so I like that. And then on the other side, we have Kumar Rocker pitching. He is not a lefty, but he's pitching for the Rangers. He's starting to pitch a bit better. He's got a 3.54 ERA. His whip is still too high, 1.32, but I think he is backable at home. He's been better at home this year. So both pitchers are in the better of their home road splits here. Rocker, 2.94 home ERA. That's pretty good. He's coming off a 6-inning shutout of Kansas City here at home, although I know he walked 3 guys, only struck out 2. He's been Kumar Walker still, I know. His walk numbers are definitely concerning. I'm not going to disagree with that. The fact that in the month of May, he had 15 walks in 29 and third innings, I realize that's bad. Usually I don't want to back a guy that's been doing that. And his strikeout rate was not really that high at 22. He only allowed 24 hits, though. But 3 of his last 4 outings have been shutouts, though. And 2 of them were at home. And one of them was in Coors Field. So he's obviously doing something right here. He's pitching more effectively here. He's given up fewer than 1 hit per inning on the season. He hasn't allowed a lot of home runs. He's getting a lot of ground balls, and I know that's a profile I tend to not like that much. It's like David Peterson, You're walking too many guys, bro. You're just getting lucky that you're grounding a lot of guys out. But I don't know. I think Rocker, he's still so early in his career that I think there is a difference here that he's still got that room to improve, and he's better at home. He seems to be pitching a little bit better recently, even though the walk number, you'd still like to see be better. His walk number is high on the season. His strikeout rate is lower than you'd want to see. I don't love that. But the other thing that we do have going for us here, despite the fact that aside from the fact that he's good at home and pitching better recently, is that he's going up against a lineup that's never seen him before. So both starting pitchers have the unfamiliarity edge here. Cleveland might struggle to try to figure him out early on here. He might do okay against an offense that's not that good. And I like seeing the money coming in on Texas here. I talk about this when I have an under, and if I see the money's coming in on the under as well, by the way, but if the money's coming in towards the team with the pitcher that I think is the more questionable pitcher and the money is backing that pitcher, that pretty much tells me that the professional bettors basically think that both pitchers are going to do well here, I think, because I don't think they're really necessarily fading a guy like Messick, right? I think they're more playing on Rocker here as like kind of an undervalued commodity. 59% of the tickets are on Cleveland, 67% of the cash on Texas. So I like seeing that. We have 75% of the tickets and 94% of the cash on the under. So the money is backing the under here. Like I said, it's at 7.5. 7.5 juice to the over here. So you can get a decent number on the 7.5 under here, which is what we're doing. I don't think it's going to be at 8, but yeah, I think you can get a good number on this. Cleveland is favored. Like I said, they're minus 130 or so on the road, which, again, I think that's also kind of the reason why the money's coming in on Texas here. I think the professionals are just like, I know it's Parker Messick here, but should Cleveland really be favored like that on the road? Where I think the disparity between these two teams is not that crazy. I know Cleveland is leading the the AL. I keep saying NL, the AL Central, whatever. And Cleveland has a way better record here, but Texas is not that much worse of a team than Cleveland is. So I do kind of agree with the professional bettors here, in that getting Texas as an underdog in a situation like this makes some sense. Plus, they have the rest advantage and the better bullpen here. So I'm not sure I really disagree with that market indicator there on Texas, but I prefer the under, obviously. So that is what we're going to do there. And if it's a pitching duel, that does also support the underdog there as well. So, but yeah, I think Cleveland is not that much better than Texas, and I don't think there's as much of a disparity as the line might be indicating between Messick and Rocker. So Messick is definitely the better pitcher. Don't get me wrong, but we're going to go under in that game. All right. I'll take a break. I usually do it around the hour mark. We still have 5 games to talk about. There's still one more game in here that I have a play on, which is a side, and it is my favorite play of the day. It's a rare situation where the situation and the pitching matchup line up all in favor of that one side, so I really like it. See if you can guess what it is, I guess, and I'll be back in a second. All right. I'm sweating, man. I went, as I do sometimes, I shed the headgear here, even though I haven't shaved on my head in a few days here. All right. Zoom back in here. Let's go. Oh, yes. I was like, am I still sharing my screen? Yes, I am. All right. Kansas City and Minnesota, also on Apple TV. Probably, I would guess that most of the viewership on those Apple TV games is going to be the Cleveland, Texas game and not Kansas City, Minnesota, although it is a divisional series. This series already started yesterday, and Kansas City won 8-6. Probably a higher scoring game than I really thought it would be, maybe, but I kind of liked, I leaned towards Kansas City. Actually, I think I did kind of have an over lean in that game, especially because both bullpens here suck. So this does kind of look like an over type of series, and yesterday's game certainly went over. The bullpens are both bad. Kansas City used 4 guys out of the bullpen yesterday. Minnesota used everybody because I think they went with a bullpen game. So they used like 7 relief pitchers. That is really bad. Whatever you do here, fading Minnesota's bullpen makes a lot of sense in this one. They're 27th ranked in bullpen as well. Kansas City is dead last, 30th, although their ERA is better than the Anaheim bullpen and Houston. But still, they're a bad bullpen as well. Kansas City is 27th in offense. Minnesota is a bit better than that. They're 19th. But Minnesota's bullpen awful, and in awful shape right now. Michael Wacha is pitching for Kansas City here. He's been solid, 3.23 ERA, 1.12 whip. I'm kind of mad at him, though, because he hurt one of our plays on his side, whenever that was, pretty recently. We had him, I think we had him at home, right? Or maybe it was on the road at Texas, maybe, I forget. But he's not as good on the road. He has a 4.11 road ERA, which is not as good. Yeah, it was that game at Texas. I don't know what he did in that game, man. His last start, we took a loss on Kansas City, first 5 in that one. He was awful in the first inning of that game for whatever reason, and then he settled down. But he gave up 8 hits, 4 walks. He was a walker in that game. 5 strikeouts, 8 hits allowed. That wasn't that good, obviously, in 5 innings. Kansas City's lost his last 4 starts, but for the most part, that's because Kansas City can't score. He's been good otherwise. Over the month of May, he allowed more than 3 earned runs only once, and that started against Texas. And yes, I know doing that at Texas is not a good sign. I know, because it's a pitcher-friendly park. Texas doesn't hit well, especially at home. And Wacha, I think, had good numbers against them, too. So that's not a good sign that maybe he's falling out of form here. But his numbers generally are good. He has a really low hit rate. His walk rate, fairly low. Strikeout rate, not that high, but that's not what you get out of him. And it was pretty much the same over the last month. So he could potentially bounce back. His numbers against Minnesota are good, and 87 at bats. So we have a big sample here. 21 strikeouts, 8 walks. That ratio is not that good, but he's held him to a 207 average, 619 OPS. So I'm not really looking to fade Wacha here. He could certainly pitch well here. Has the matchup numbers that support it. Zebby Matthews, another guy that let us down recently, is going from Minnesota. He's got a 4.63 ERA now in a short sample size here, but his whip is still good at 1.03. He's been really good at home, 1.38 ERA so far at home, which is good. That's because his one road start was the last one at Pittsburgh, and he got beat up in that game, man. But he did get unlucky, I think. He went 4 1/3. Gave up 6 hits, 2 walks. I know that's not good, but 7 runs scored against him on those 8 base runners. That is pretty unlikely. I mean, most of the base runners he allowed came home to score. Usually that doesn't happen. He did allow 2 home runs there. He had 7 strikeouts, though. Overall, he has a 24-4 strikeout walk ratio in 23 1/3 innings, 20 hits allowed. The home runs are bad, 5 home runs, but that could be a little bit fluky. He is a bit of a fly ball pitcher, though, so that is a little bit of a concern. But generally, I think he's been good, and he's faced 3 pretty good offenses in a row, Houston, White Sox, Pittsburgh, and only did bad once on the road. And Pittsburgh is very, very good at hitting at home, which, you know, maybe I should have just stayed off of those games there as far as the first 5 unders, because I think I had 2 losers in there, but yeah, whatever. Matthews, I think, is actually good, though. He's better than his ERA looks. He looks like he's starting to pitch better. He's a guy that definitely has talent, and I know it didn't show up the last 2 years. Minnesota, I mean, maybe they brought him up a little bit too early on. But I think he's going to be better this year than he has been. His numbers against KC, though, are not good. In 38 at-bats, 342 batting average allowed, 901 OPS, 9-2 strikeout walk ratio. So that does worry me. Matthews does not have good matchup numbers here. However, none of those numbers were accumulated this year, though. So Kansas City hasn't seen him this year, and he seems to be clearly better this year in some way. So do with that information what you want. I'm not going to do anything with this game. Minnesota's a small favorite at around minus 118 here. I think I would probably just lean Kansas City. I mean, you have a decimated Minnesota bullpen here. Walker looks like he has the matchup numbers over Matthews. I think Matthews might have a higher ceiling here, Matthews might have he's more capable of blowing hitters away. But Walker is obviously the way more established pitcher and is the more steady pitcher here. So, yeah, I think I might slightly lean towards the Royals in that one. But I don't really have a great feel for that game. And I know you could take the bullpens out if you want, but Minnesota's bullpen is just so tragic that you might actually have a little bit of an edge with Kansas City's bullpen there because Minnesota used so much of theirs. But if you want to go first five and isolate the starting pitching matchup, I think you could do that too. And Kansas City might be a little bit of a favorite, though, if you do it that way in the first five. All right, we have Milwaukee at Colorado on ESPN Unlimited. Colorado's returning home from the road. They're only on a single series road trip to Anaheim, so it's not like a full road trip return spot where it's a long road trip that you're returning from. Still maybe a little bit of a negative. But Milwaukee is at a rest disadvantage because they played yesterday, and they got obliterated by San Francisco. I don't know what that was. They had a pretty good series throughout that series against San Francisco, but they wound up losing 2 out of the 4 games. I think it was a 4-game series. I don't know what exactly. Well, I know what happened in one game. Logan Webb, in the game I gave out San Francisco first 5, he had a perfect game into the 6th inning of that game. So my handicap on Logan Webb worked out pretty well. I'm not looking at San Francisco right now. I'm looking at Milwaukee. Milwaukee used 3 relief pitchers yesterday. They kind of went with a bullpen-ish game yesterday, which I think is part of the reason why San Francisco did all that damage. Colorado was off yesterday, so Colorado, again, they do have a rest advantage here, but their bullpen is way worse than Milwaukee's. They're 23rd. Their ERA is almost 5. Rockies are not a good bullpen. Milwaukee is number 12 in bullpen. They're one of the actual best bullpens. So I think they're top 5 in bullpen ERA. So Milwaukee, even though they're a little bit unrested, they do have the better bullpen, even still. Offensively, I think these teams have both been kind of all over the place. Colorado's 14th, Milwaukee's 16th. These teams might be able to hit in Coors Field, though. And given this starting pitching matchup, we might see some runs here. The total's 12, which it's 12 for a reason, but it might be a little bit too high. Brandon Sproat is pitching for the Brewers. I know his numbers are bad. 6.24 ERA, 1.53 whip. He's been a little bit better on the road, but not by much. Similar numbers. If you dig into his numbers a bit, though, he has more than 1 strikeout per inning, fewer than 1 hit per inning. He's allowed too many home runs, which is a problem. 10 home runs. He's a bit of a fly ball pitcher, but not that extreme. But yeah, obviously that's not good if you're allowing double-digit home runs so far this season. You're going into Coors Field. Obviously, yeah, that's bad. And his walk rate is definitely too high, so those are the concerns with him. But I think it's mostly the walks. If he was able to get his walks under control, I think he would be a pretty decent pitcher. It just hasn't happened yet, but we will see. I know he's going to Coors Field. He might struggle here because he does allow fly balls. He has unfamiliarity on his side. The only Troy Johnston has ever faced him. He's 1 for 2 with a single and a strikeout and no walks against him. So Sproat does have the unfamiliarity edge here. He's never pitched. I was going to say, I don't think he's ever pitched in Coors, which he hasn't. So I'm pretty sure he hasn't this year either. So it'll be a new thing for him. I don't know how he's going to perform here, man, because he is too home run heavy. But I think Sproat is better than his numbers might suggest. Ryan Feltner is pitching for Colorado here. He actually hasn't been that bad. 4.85 ERA, 1.31 whip. I mean, as far as Colorado's pitchers go, he's one of the least bad, and he's actually been good in Coors Field so far. 3.79 home ERA. He just shut out San Francisco for 6 innings here at home. Not a bad sign. He pitched okay against the Dodgers here at home, too. That's a pretty good sign. So Feltner, not really that bad. He's allowed 1 hit per inning. He's only allowed 8 walks in 26 innings. 19 strikeouts is not really that good. He's not an extreme fly ball pitcher, so that plays better in Colorado. Neither of these pitchers are that heavy towards the fly ball, but Feltner is like a decent mix of ground ball, fly ball outs. Feltner going up against, who are we talking about here? Milwaukee. He has good numbers against Milwaukee and 67 at bats, 209 batting average allowed, 533 OPS, 17 strikeouts, 5 walks. So those are pretty good numbers. You could make an argument for Colorado here. The road trip return is only from a single game road trip. The money is fading them, though. 67% of tickets, 55% of the cash on Colorado. Milwaukee's a favorite, obviously. They're around minus 150 something because Colorado never gets respect in the market. But Colorado has the rest advantage here. You can make the argument they have a bit of a starting pitching edge here. They don't have a bullpen edge, so if you do go Colorado here, I think you should go first 5 only. Full game, you get less of an advantage or maybe even a disadvantage because of their bullpen. But, I can also see the argument for the first 5 under in this game. I don't think I'd really want to go full game with it because of Colorado's bullpen, but at least they are rested. Milwaukee's bullpen's pretty good. But I could see Sproat being better than his numbers look and unfamiliar to Colorado. Feltner having decent numbers at home and decent matchup numbers here. The fact that this total is 12 or I guess 11.5 at most places here, I know it's Coors Field and you got to put the total high, but this seems maybe a little bit high for this particular matchup. So I don't know. A first 5 under makes some sense, but I don't really want to do it. The next game is my play, Mets and Padres. I like pretty much everything about this play, to be honest. We're going to take the Mets on the money line in this game at plus 112. I know we're fading Michael King here, and I think he's a good pitcher. So I went through this handicap, and I was like, how many things are going to line up for me in this handicap here? Because we start with the situation. San Diego's returning home cross-country. That's bad. They were just out on the East Coast, and I know they went 1-5 on the road trip. So the tendency for the public bettors, I think, is going to be, they're back at home now. Obviously, San Diego, they have the better record here. The Mets are not that good on the road. The public's going to come in on San Diego. They got Michael King pitching against an unknown pitcher for the Mets, basically. San Diego, the tendency for the public is going to be, this is a San Diego team that's way better than the Mets, right? They're going to bounce back after losing all these road games, but I don't think that's the way it works, man. You're traveling cross-country, going across 3 time zones with no time off, and what do you have to do? You have to adjust to the West Coast. You have to adjust to the Pacific time zone here now again, even though I know that's their home time zone, but they still have to make that adjustment with no days off and play a late night game. And I talk about how that fucks with your biological clock. So I think it's a big time negative on top of having to return home and have to get back to home life, which can distract you, especially when you're playing against a team that's not that good. So we have a lot of negatives already for San Diego. So I said, all right, that's pretty good already, looking for a fade of San Diego here. What did the Mets just do? The Mets are actually already on the Pacific Coast. So the Mets don't have to make a time zone adjustment here because they're in Seattle, or they were just in Seattle, so they're coming down from Seattle. I know that's they're traveling from way north to way south. I get that. But the Mets also had yesterday off. So the Mets have a rest advantage here. So San Diego's traveling across 3 time zones and not having a day off, whereas the Mets had yesterday off and they're staying in the Pacific time zone, so they're already adjusted to it. I think that's a huge advantage to the Mets already here. They just won against Seattle to kind of regain some confidence there after some losses. But the Mets have been playing better recently. They've won 5 of their last 7 games. San Diego, really, I don't think they're as good as Seattle is. I know San Diego's bullpen is good, but all right, let's take a look at that. Well, San Diego did use 4 bullpen arms yesterday while the Mets rested. So even though Mason Miller didn't come into the game, and in fact, Mason Miller hasn't pitched in a while, and San Diego does have a really good bullpen, but they're a bit unrested right now. They're ranked 6th in bullpen right now, and yes, they have one of the better ERAs. They're like a top 3 or 4 ERA probably. The Mets are right behind them. The Mets are 7th, and the Mets bullpen ERA is also good. Plus, given the rest, I think that makes the bullpen situation pretty much a wash, and you're getting the Mets as an underdog here. Maybe you could even argue the Mets have a little bit of an advantage there because of the rest. So I think that's good. Then we look at the offenses. Hey, guess what? Arranging it by OPS, the Mets are no longer in 30th. They're no longer a dead last. Guess who is? San Diego. So San Diego has fallen behind the Mets offensively over the course of the entire season now. So the Mets have an offensive edge. I've never said that the entire season. Did they really? I don't know. Maybe not. But still, it's not like San Diego is this like prolific offense here. We look at the starting pitching, and yes, on the surface, it looks like San Diego has the starting pitching edge because Michael King is very good. But Christian Scott, I think, is kind of under the radar here from the Mets, man. He's got a 2.97 ERA, and I know it should be higher given that his 1.38 whip is not good. I get that. But he's been good on the road, 2.79 road ERA. He's pitching well recently. If you look at the month of May, he went 29 innings. The Mets, even though the Mets are a bad team this year, they won 4 out of his 6 starts, dude. So, and he had a start in Coors Field in there where he wasn't great, but he was good enough. At Anaheim, which is not that easy. It's a hitter-friendly park. At Washington, he struggled there, but still, that was one of his outings. So, he didn't have the easiest matchups, even though he did face Miami a couple of times. But Scott is pitching decently recently. 2.79 ERA in May, 26 hits allowed in 29 innings, only 1 home run allowed, and he hasn't allowed any for the last 5 starts. And he's in a pitcher-friendly ballpark here in San Diego. He did allow 11 walks. That is a problem, but 37 strikeouts is really good. So his strikeout stuff has been there. He's got a good strikeout rate. Over the course of the season, it's over 1 per inning. His hit rate is below 1 per inning. The only issue is his walk number is a bit high. He's got to get that thing down. But even that, he walked 5 guys in 1 1/3 innings in his first start against Minnesota. And since then, he's settled down at least a bit. So Scott is pitching better. I think he's under the radar here. And San Diego, I don't believe, has ever faced him before. No. So Scott, he's a young, fairly talented pitcher, and he's got a little bit of an unfamiliar, or he has a little bit of an extra edge here because of the unfamiliarity. San Diego may struggle to figure him out the first couple of times they face him. Meanwhile, yeah, Michael King pitching for San Diego. He's the better pitcher overall. 3.18 ERA, 1.13 whip. He's the more established pitcher. I get all that. He's been better at home as well, 2.67 ERA. So why are we fading him here? Well, look at his last couple of starts, man. It was at home against the A's, so it wasn't at the A's stadium. He only lasted 3 2/3 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, had 4 walks, 5 hits. He did not do well in that outing. And I know the A's are a better offense than the Mets. There's no question about that. But this kind of shows that King is going a little bit out of form right now. And then in his most recent start, he did last 6 innings against Washington, but he gave up 5 earned runs. And I know it was only on 5 hits, so that's not that bad. But he only had 2 strikeouts and 1 walk. So his strikeout stuff has lapsed a little bit. It's 6.5 strikeout walk ratio over those 2 starts. He's starting to have some issues, at least right now, even though, yeah, he's obviously a good pitcher, but I think right now he's kind of in a bit of a bad swing here. Overall, he has fewer than 1 strikeout per inning on the season, by the way, which is less than what you'd expect from him. His hit rate is good, for sure. He's allowed way below 1 hit per inning, but his walk rate is actually quite high on the season, so he has had issues with walks, including this past month or so. And then here's where it really gets this is. I had not decided to play the Mets until this. I was like, please tell me he has bad matchup numbers against the Mets, as bad as their offense is. If he has bad matchup numbers against the Mets, this is becoming a play for me. Well, guess what, baby? 46 at-bats against the Mets, 12 strikeouts, 6 walks, 283 average allowed, 822 OPS. So, yes, the Mets do hit well against him. I know a majority of it is Bo Bichette. I know he has a lot of the at-bats, but some of these other guys have hit him as well. So I think we could do it. I think the situation is a huge advantage for the Mets here. We're going full game as well because I think the bullpens are okay to keep them in here with given the rest situation for San Diego. The money's coming in on San Diego. I do not agree with that, obviously. 54% of tickets, 68% of the cash on San Diego. I don't know what's going on with that, but, dude, it's early in the day, and this Wager Talk screen, like, if you watched the market yesterday, the market came in line with me. Like, the market shifted before that Yankee game to have the money indicating on the Yankees again before that game yesterday. So I would take all these numbers with a bit of a grain of salt. Like, I kind of used it as like a loose guide. But yeah, there's too much that I like about the spot. Mets are definitely a play for me. My favorite play of the day, actually. Minus 130 or so is the price on San Diego here. And given what the spot is and whatever, I don't think they should be quite favored by that much. Mets maybe a little bit under the radar here, and I don't think the Mets are like one of the absolute worst teams in baseball, man. I just don't think they are. And I think San Diego is a little bit lesser than what maybe their record would indicate, although they have been falling off recently. But yes, I like that play on the Mets quite a bit. All right, we have Washington at Arizona. Arizona could be in a letdown spot here. I consider this being a play here. Arizona just finished off a series against the Dodgers, finally getting a win yesterday. Meanwhile, Washington had a day off. So Arizona's in a letdown spot potentially here off of that win. You can see them celebrating here yesterday in what looks like it was raining as well. Even though that was in Arizona. Don't they have a roof? Unless, I don't know what that was. So you'd think that if it was raining, they would just close the roof. Unless maybe that was, I don't know. Was somebody spraying something? I don't know. What is that? It looks like rain to me. I have no idea. Whatever. Arizona, big win for them. Could be a letdown spot here. They're staying at home, though, and the issue is Washington is traveling cross-country. So even though Washington was off yesterday, the fact that they do have to fly out from home, and yes, they could be in a bounce-back spot if they're getting swept at home by Miami. We know Washington's actually not that good at home. I think they're actually better on the road, but the problem is, I don't know, man. Going east to west, I talk about this. Going into a late time zone like this, it can mess with your biological clock a lot, so I don't like that. Even though, yeah, Washington, really good on the road, surprisingly. 19-12 on the road, and they're awful at home, so you do tend to want to back Washington in road games. But Arizona's pretty solid at home. I still like Washington in this game, but I can't do it for one reason is what I just told you. Just the cross-country travel, time zone adjustment. I just am not really on board with that. I don't like Washington's bullpen, obviously, even though they were rested yesterday. They're the lesser bullpen. Arizona only used 2 guys out of their bullpen yesterday. Arizona, number 3 in bullpen. I'm not quite that high on that bullpen, but their ERA is still in the high 3s, but they're a decent bullpen at the very least. Washington is a bad bullpen. They're 24th. They have one of the worst bullpen ERAs, so definitely do not want to do anything with Washington's bullpen other than fade or avoid them. Washington's offense has been good. They're number 6, so they may be able to hit well in a hitter-friendly park like Arizona. Arizona's back down to 19th in offense. They've been moving all over the place. Foster Griffin is pitching for Washington. He's been pretty good for the most part, even though I don't really quite understand it because a guy who's 30 years old, as I always say with him, doesn't tend to just come from out of nowhere and just all of a sudden start pitching well. He doesn't have that much major league experience, so it is weird. 3.76 ERA and 1.15 whip. Those are good numbers. He's been a little bit better on the road, as a lot of Washington's pitchers are for whatever reason. 3.6 road ERA, but it is a hitter-friendly ballpark here. He'll be going up against Arizona. For the most part, Griffin's been pretty good. He allowed 3 home runs in his last outing against San Diego, which isn't very good. But those were the only runs he allowed there. He's allowed more than 3 earned runs only 3 times this season. He's allowed well below 1 hit per inning. His home run rate is a bit high, though. He's a fly ball-ish pitcher. That doesn't bode well for pitching in Arizona, really, so I don't love that. The home run conduciveness here, 13 on the season. 21 walks is not great either in 67 innings on the season. 65 strikeouts is good, and 56 hits allowed is good. And his numbers over the course of May were pretty similar to that. So Griffin's been all right, though. And he has some decent starts in there against some good offenses, too. Against Arizona, they never have seen him before. So Griffin does have an unfamiliarity edge, even though he's not one of these young guys Arizona still might, have to take a couple of at-bats to figure him out. So I think Griffin may have a little bit of an edge there still. Merrill Kelly is going for Arizona here, and I know he has not had a good season so far. 5.06 ERA, 1.46 WHIP, but he is definitely improving. And if you look at his career numbers, I know he's 37 now. I feel like I say this every time he's out there, but he started off the season really bad. He was coming back from injury, didn't look good, but he's definitely been trending in the right direction. His career numbers are pretty solid, so he's definitely a better pitcher than these numbers suggest, unless you think that he's just totally fallen off a cliff, but I just don't really think so because he's not really a strikeout guy or anything like that. He has struggled in the stadium, though, 6.23 ERA so far, but I'm not as concerned about that because he's pitched for Arizona for most of his career, so he's obviously used to pitching in the stadium, so I'm not as worried about that, really, although he is a very fly ball heavy pitcher, which kind of makes you wonder how he's had a successful career, mostly pitching with Arizona, but he has. So he's pitched most of his career with them, and he's done well. So, the fly balls haven't really been an issue for him throughout his career. Since a start against the Mets on May 9th, he's allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in every outing. He's faced some bad offenses, though. San Francisco, Colorado, San Francisco twice, but he did pitch in Coors Field in that Colorado one and had his first complete game of his career somehow. Then he pitched at Seattle as well, which is a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but whatever. He's pitching better recently. His overall numbers are not great. More than 1 hit per inning, 10 home runs allowed, not great. Too many walks as well. Strikeout rate is low. But again, he is pitching better over the past month or so, so he's coming back into form a little bit here. His numbers against Washington are not really good, but in a small sample size, 28 at-bats. Only 6 of their hitters have faced him. 7 strikeouts, no walks. Those numbers are solid, but 286 average, allowed 893 OPS. It's such a small sample size, I don't want to weigh that too heavily, but yeah, I know Kelly is pitching better right now, but I would lean towards Washington first 5 here still. I think it could be a letdown spot for Arizona here, but I know they're staying at home. Washington's having to travel cross country. I don't really love all that. But I think Griffin, who's been pitching a bit better than Kelly this season and has the unfamiliarity edge. Kelly, not good numbers really against Washington. Washington also good on the road. Yeah, if I was going to do this game, I would play Washington in the first 5 here. I don't want their bullpen at all. Arizona's around minus 130 something here. Oddsmakers telling you they are the better team. The money is actually indicating towards Arizona, which would worry me a little bit too, even though I know I faded the market read with the Mets play there. Washington has 71% of tickets, 52% of the cash on them. Public, for whatever reason, seems like they're still backing Washington. Maybe it's a combination of the ERA disparity between the two pitchers and Washington having a good offense this year. Maybe that's why. I don't really get it. Money coming in against Washington, though. And by the way, the total in that Mets-San Diego game is low, as you would expect in a San Diego game with 2 decent pitchers on the mound. It's 7.5. I think that helps the underdog's case, by the way, when it's a low total. Fewer runs being scored means the underdog has a better chance to get it done because it's a better chance it'll be a closer game. This game does not have a low total, by the way. It's at 9, so do with that info what you want, but I considered having that on my card, Washington first 5, but I decided to leave it off for the reasons that I stated. And then we have the rematch of LA with Anaheim at the Dodgers this time. Anaheim might have a little bit of an extra motivational edge here because they got absolutely embarrassed by the Dodgers when the Dodgers came into Anaheim not that long ago. The Dodgers outscored them in that series 31-3, I think is what that was. Absolutely ridiculous. So Anaheim, and it was a sweep for the Dodgers, if that wasn't obvious. So Anaheim might have a little bit of an extra motivational edge here, although I know it's the Dodgers. They're a way better team than Anaheim. Dodgers are returning home from the road, but it was only a single series road trip in Arizona, so that's not exactly a horrible road trip return spot here for the Dodgers. As far as the bullpen usage, the Dodgers played yesterday, by the way. They used 4 relief pitchers, and Anaheim was resting yesterday, so Anaheim does have a rest advantage here. And Anaheim was just at home, so Anaheim basically has no travel here, going from Anaheim to L.A., not much of a travel spot there. And Anaheim did win their last game against Texas, I believe is who it was. Was it Texas? Hold on. Oh, no, Colorado, my mistake. I don't know why I was thinking Texas. It was Colorado. So Anaheim was able to break a losing streak in their last game. So Anaheim has a rest advantage here, a little bit of a travel edge here, and might have a little bit of a motivational edge. So the situation favors Anaheim here. As far as the bullpens, obviously you don't want anything to do with Anaheim's bullpen. Even though I know the Dodgers bullpen's not rested, they're the number 2 bullpen here in WHIP. Anaheim's bullpen is just too bad to put any stock in them. 29th, I can't do it. Too much of a bullpen disparity there. So I would not go full game Anaheim here. Anaheim is 16th in offense. We know the Dodgers are number 1, and by quite a decent margin as well. Looking at the starting pitching, though, it does look like a game where Anaheim does have a chance. They got Reed Detmers on the mound, so you're saying there's a chance. Detmers does not have a good ERA, 4.63, so he might get overlooked. And he's another guy that let us down in his last outing, although it was more Rasmussen that let us down than Detmers. That was that first 5 under play in the Anaheim-Tampa Bay game. But Detmers, I'll show you in a minute, wasn't really that bad in that outing. Detmers has a 1.18 ERA, 1.18 WHIP. ERA would be really good. WHIP, that's not bad. That indicates that his ERA should be better than it is. He's been a little bit worse he's on the road here. My mistake. He's been better on the road. 4.06 road ERA, so the home road splits are in his favor here. Like I said, against Tampa Bay, he did manage to make it 5 innings in that one, allowed 3 runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, wasn't great, but also 7 strikeouts, so he wasn't really that bad in that game. And he had 14 Ks in the game before that and a 1-hit, 8-inning performance against Texas. He's pitching fairly well right now, man. In the month of May, he had a really high strikeout rate. His walk rate was a little bit high. His hit rate was pretty low, too. So his ERA should have been better than it was. Over the course of the season, same thing. Low hit rate. Doesn't allow a lot of home runs, even though he's a fly ball pitcher. He somehow avoids the home runs because he's a high strikeout rate pitcher. He's got one of the higher strikeout rates in baseball, believe it or not, 82 and 68 innings. And then he's got too many walks, of course, because there's got to be something wrong with everybody. But I like Detmers. I think he's good. I think he's a bit under the radar. His numbers indicate he's a pretty good pitcher. And the Dodgers, however, the Dodgers do have good numbers against him, I should say, is how I should have phrased that. Detmers has 84 at-bats against them, 21 strikeouts, 10 walks, but the Dodgers do hit him well. 274 average, 863 OPS. So that kind of throws a wrench into it, because I was looking at this thinking Anaheim might be a play here in the first 5 or something. I don't think I could do it, though. His numbers are just not good enough against the Dodgers for me. In fact, they're not. In fact, they're bad. Roki Sasaki is pitching for the Dodgers. He hasn't been that great, but he is better recently. 4.59 ERA, 1.35 WHIP on the season. Not great numbers, but he's been a little bit better at home, 4.24 ERA, and he's finally starting to figure it out as a starter. He was actually really good in May, even though the Dodgers somehow lost 3 of his 5 starts. He allowed no more than 300 runs in any of them. He went at least 5 innings in all of them, allowed 22 hits in 28 1/3 innings. This included a start against Anaheim, by the way. 28 strikeouts, 6 walks. Sasaki is actually in good form right now, so I don't really want to fade him here because he is pitching better recently. And one of the best starts was actually against Anaheim in that series against Anaheim on the road. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run allowed, 8 strikeouts, no walks. Now, yes, it does mean that Anaheim might actually hit better against him this time because they hadn't seen him before. So now he has 18 at-bats against them. Only 6 of Anaheim's active hitters have actually even faced him. Only Trout has an extra base hit, a double. 6 strikeouts, no walks, 111 average, 278 OPS. I still think Sasaki may pitch well here, though. Even though I know once a lineup has seen a pitcher once, a lot of times they will do better the next time against them. So that might be a little bit of a disadvantage for Sasaki there. I forgot to look. Did Detmers face the Dodgers in that series? He didn't. So Detmers actually skipped that Dodgers series, or he would just, his start just didn't come up during that series. It's an interesting matchup, man. The Dodgers are favored by quite a bit here. It looks like Anaheim's actually undecided now, so we got to keep an eye on that. I don't know what's going on with that. Dodgers are minus 200 now, but that seems to kind of indicate to me that Detmers is maybe not pitching now. So I don't know what the deal is, so I'm not going to do anything with this game now, but minus 200 seems crazy if Detmers was actually pitching here. Like, I know it's the Dodgers. They're the best team in baseball, but minus 200, with Sasaki on the mound, if it was against Detmers, you would think the Dodgers would be closer to like minus 170. I would think. I'm not an odds maker, so I don't know. But it looks like Detmers might not be pitching now, so I don't know. And the total's 8 in this game but I think the spot is better for Anaheim here, but I don't really want to fade Sasaki either, so there's not much I can really do with that game, especially when we don't even know what's going on with Detmers here. I didn't see any news here, so maybe he still is pitching, but I have no idea. We can kind of try to figure it out, but based on Anaheim's schedule, like who pitched 5 games ago here. Let me see. It was Detmer, so I don't know. It would be his turn in the rotation here, so I don't know what's going on. Do with that information what you want, though. Let's finish this off. We got WNBA, more WNBA Cup action happening here. Connecticut at Chicago is the first game. Chicago, I think, is better than their record probably indicates here. And you'll see that in a minute based on what the line is here, because obviously they're going to be favored against Connecticut, even though Connecticut has 2 wins. One of their wins is against Seattle, who's really bad, and then they did have a win against L.A. Connecticut, not a good team. Chicago's lost 5 games in a row. They're returning home, but it was only one. It was a single-game road trip on Tuesday to Washington. So I don't really see Chicago overlooking anybody at this point. It's a cup game. That game against Washington also was. So I don't know how the cup works exactly, but I think there's like a loser's bracket and a winner's bracket. It has something to do with in the first rounds, or round or whatever, you have to be like one of the teams in your group or whatever that does better, I think is how it works, and then those teams advance. So Chicago might be motivated for that reason. Although Connecticut, I believe, lost their first cup game as well at Atlanta, and they got blown out in that game. So I don't know. I mean, I see both teams being motivated here. I don't really have much of a read on this. Chicago's around a 6-point favorite here. They're the better team. I'd probably lay the points. I mean, it looks like you wouldn't really want to do that because their record is so bad, but the odds makers are telling you that they're fairly significantly better than Connecticut is. So Connecticut, the worst team in the league. I'd probably lean towards laying it with Chicago, but I don't have much on that game. Dallas at LA. LA just lost their first cup game to Vegas. It looks like Plum is coming back, but you know what I have to say about that? And I think she used to be on Vegas. Plum is like LA's best player, or one of their best players. So you know what I talk about? The reverse injured player spot. Like when you have one of your star players returning, a lot of times it can be a chemistry issue where you have to figure out your roles again, and that team might be a little bit overvalued because that player is coming back from injury or whatever. Although I think you can negate that a little bit by the fact that this is a cup game and LA did lose their most recent game to Vegas after losing to Connecticut the game before that, which is really, I think we had Connecticut in that game if I'm not mistaken. Maybe we didn't though. I'm not sure actually, I forget. But anyway, yeah, I think it's mitigated a little bit by the fact that this is a game that maybe LA will show up for if they're trying to advance in the cup here. I think whether or not teams are motivated in the cup that heavily also depends on how good their championship chances are. And I think it's obvious that Connecticut, Chicago, and LA don't have good championship chances here. So, yeah, I think LA might still show up here, although they do have to work Plum back in. They're actually not good at home as well. 1-4 at home. That's pretty bad, obviously. They're facing Dallas, who's been surprisingly good so far. They're 3-1 on the road, too. So Dallas has the much better home-road splits here. Dallas, they face a reasonably difficult schedule, too. So this Dallas team is one of the improving teams here because they've had the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row, and Beckers is obviously the better of the two. Her girlfriend hasn't really been factoring into any of this so far. I don't know if she's hurt or whatever. Dallas has won 3 games in a row. They just beat Seattle, which I thought could have been maybe a letdown spot because they just beaten Vegas the game before that, but it was a cup game. Seattle's awful, whatever. Dallas got the win there. Now Dallas going out on the road. This is a tough game to handicap, man. Dallas has gone down from a 2.5-point favorite to about a 1.5-point favorite. If you want to fade, the reverse, if you want to go with the reverse injured player spot here, then you would want to lean towards Dallas here and fade Plum coming back for LA. But I'm not so sure about that. LA might be a little bit extra motivated here anyway because it is a cup game, and Dallas has won a game in the cup already, and LA hasn't. And the money looks like it initially came in towards LA. So there are conflicting factors here. It's also a really high total for whatever that's worth, 178.5. So I think these teams probably are not very good on the defensive side of things, but I don't know these teams that well. And then all these games are on Ion, by the way, whatever the hell that is. Phoenix at Portland is the last game. Portland got killed in what I think was their first cup game against Golden State. Golden State's a pretty solid team. Portland is not as good as their record looks at 6-5. I mean, they've pulled off some pretty good wins here, but like against Indiana, against New York, twice actually against New York. But I don't know, man. I mean, they're still an expansion team. I'm not sure that I buy into it too much, but they might have an extra home advantage here against a team like Phoenix because Phoenix just hasn't gone there yet. So it's an unfamiliar travel spot for a lot of these teams having to go to a new team's venue like Portland. Although Portland, Portland did just lose, like I said, to Golden State, so they might show up for this still. Phoenix, though, they're better than a 3-8 record, you know what I mean? I think Phoenix is better than Portland, and Phoenix just broke a long losing streak. They lost 6 games in a row, but they did face Minnesota in there, New York twice, Atlanta. Phoenix has faced a very difficult schedule this year, so Portland is going to be an easier opponent than a lot of their other opponents, in my opinion. They finally beat Seattle. I know we lost on that game. Phoenix did have a big lead in the middle of that game. They blew it. They missed a lot of threes. They shot really poorly in the game. It might be a little bit of a positive regression spot for Phoenix because they shot so poorly in that game and only hit 3 threes. They may come out and shoot better in this game, man. And the fact that they ended a losing streak, that should give them positive momentum moving forward here. I know Portland might be a little bit extra motivated because they're in kind of the losers side of the cup here, having a loss already, and Phoenix got a win so far. But I think Phoenix is actually the better team. I know Portland's favored here, but I don't know. I'm not an odds maker again, but it's kind of ridiculous to me that Portland is I did not think they'd be this heavy of a favorite. I thought it might be like maybe 2 or something like that because I think Phoenix is the better team. They've had a much more difficult schedule. I know their record is really ugly, but I think they're better than their record looks, and Portland is probably worse than their record looks. And given that they just gained new positive momentum by breaking their losing streak, I would lean Phoenix here. They opened a 1.5-point favorite, by the way, Phoenix did, and the line has moved all the way to Portland -3, so I don't know if there's like an injury going on here. Maybe there is. Like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah, it looks like there are some injuries going on with Phoenix here. Copper and Thomas, I don't even know how big of players they are. Thomas looks like she's one of their better players. She's questionable. Copper is doubtful. Copper is one of their best scorers, so she's not playing. So I think that's part of the reason why the line moved towards Portland. So kind of an injured player theory spot there. I think the line's probably gone a little bit too far, though. It might be an overreaction to that injury situation. I'd lean towards Phoenix plus the points a little bit there, but it's not going to be a play for me. What I will do, though, is give out a play. I'll find a way to attack this NBA Finals game here, and that's going to be the last thing we do here. We're going to have a play in this one, and we're going to go San Antonio's team total over 110.5. DK has it at -102 here, so you might even be able to get a little bit of a better number than this. I think it's a reasonable number, and people are going to be like, well, San Antonio just scored 95 in the first game, and I know the Knicks are a good defense, but guess who else is a good defense? The Thunder are a good defense as well. I know the Knicks might be a little bit better, but San Antonio, in the Thunder series, they scored more than this point total in I think, every home game. Or maybe except for one of them, maybe. So, but I like this, man. I know San Antonio's been playing low-scoring games at home. I know you're going to be like, well, they scored 95. How the hell are they going to score 110 here? I think that this game is going to have more offense in it than the last game did, even though these are two defensive teams. After both these teams just got a game under their belt, I think you might see the rest be a little bit lesser for both defenses here. I don't want to play the side, even though I would lean towards San Antonio on the side, because you see what happened in this game. I know the Knicks probably came out rusty, but San Antonio led the majority of this game. They had a double-digit lead in the second half, dude. They blew this game. They had a horrible fourth quarter, and then the fact they lost by 10 is extremely misleading, given the fact that San Antonio led in the final 2 minutes of the game. San Antonio was winning the game, and then they never scored again. So kind of ridiculous. So San Antonio was better in that game than it looked. I'm pissed because I don't want a New York team to win. Fuck the Knicks. The Knicks, by the way, are still not that good of a road team, although I know they've been really good on the road during the playoffs. I know. But San Antonio is the best team they've faced during the playoffs, and San Antonio is good at home. So if I was going to play the side, I would lay the points with San Antonio here if I was going to play the side, but I don't like the number, so I'm finding a different way to play this here. Now, we have 3 instances historically. I know there weren't that many. I told you that the home favorite had a huge advantage historically in game 1 of the finals, and they were like 29-3 in the last 32. But out of those 3 teams that lost that first game, all 3 of them won game 2. And I can tell you that they were the 2022 Golden State Warriors against the Celtics, and the Warriors wound up winning that series. The second team that did it was, that was the second. We're going in reverse order. So going from most recent to least recent. The next team that we have that did it was the 2013 Miami Heat, I believe, lost the first game. I think it might have been against the Spurs. I'm not sure. But Miami, I believe, not only won that next game, and both of those teams won by double digits, by the way, in game 2. Miami wound up winning that series as well, I'm pretty sure. And then the other team did not win the series. That was the 2004 LA Lakers. They won game 2, but they won it in overtime. And I think they might have covered, but it was an overtime game. And that was that game where, that was that series where I believe Detroit wound up winning the series in 5 or something. That was that series where LA was one of the biggest finals favorites to ever lose the finals, but that was some weird chemistry stuff going on that year. That was that year where Kobe and Shaq hated each other, and they just had an awful series. It was really, really weird. So I don't know. That was a bit of a weird series, but the historical trends tend to support San Antonio bouncing back here. And just in general, teams that lose game 1 in a series at home, they tend to come out with a lot of intensity in game 2 because you cannot go down 0-2 and have to go on the road. Like, you're pretty much dead if you do that. You got to win this game. So San Antonio is going to be motivated. The problem is the odds makers know that, and San Antonio was a 4.5-point favorite in game 1, and now they're a 6-point favorite here, or 6.5. So there's just not enough line value there, even though historical trends do support laying the spread in that these teams do tend to cover in that game too, but also teams that win straight up tend to cover most of the time, especially in the NBA Finals. Whoever covers wins the game almost every single time. I think in the last 66 instances of it, I think 63 of the teams that won straight up also covered. So that does suggest that you could potentially still lay the points here. The money's backing the Knicks for now, but I'm not really sure that that's accurate. 57% of tickets on San Antonio, 55% of the cash on the Knicks. I don't know about that. I think especially after game 1, I think the Knicks are going to be a public underdog, which they already kind of were in game 1. They're on this historical run throughout the playoffs here. I know San Antonio is going to have some rest issues potentially, though, because the Knicks are more rested here, and they have the more experience, so that might help them win this series. So I do worry about that. San Antonio is still really young, hasn't been here before. I told you I thought that the Knicks would have a better chance to beat San Antonio than Oklahoma City because of that youth of San Antonio and lack of experience, whereas OKC has done it before. So I thought OKC, if they got here, would beat the Knicks. But they did not get here, and they were unhealthy at the end of that San Antonio series, which sucks as a Knick hater. Anyway, yes, I would lean towards San Antonio still laying the points, but I'm finding a different way to approach it with the over team total here, which I think is correlated to the Spurs winning, but you obviously don't even need them to win. You just need this to be a higher scoring game, and I think it might be, even though we have money on the under here very significantly. 73% of tickets are on the over, 70% of the cash on the under. It seems odd to me that there's that much of a ticket percentage on the over, though, because I know over is usually a public side, but the first game went under. The first game landed 210, right? If I'm doing that math right. And the total's gone down. The total in game 1 was 217.5, and now we're looking at 215.5 here, or it's going up a little bit to 216. But the books have adjusted the total downward, which I don't really get that, because I think the slowest pace that you were going to get was going to be in the first. I told you first half under in game one made some sense, and I know there were a lot of professionals on that, and it won, although barely. But what I thought was that the Knicks could come out rusty, and they did. So San Antonio first half made a lot of sense in that game too. Knicks came out rusty again after that long layoff, and I thought that both teams having some rest there would mean the offenses had to take a little bit of time to get in gear. You'd get more intense defense. So I thought the under made a lot more sense early in that first game. Now that both teams just played 2 days ago and have a game under their belt, I think there's more fatigue coming into this game. So I think an over makes more sense in this game. And then when you look at what happened, neither team really shot that well. The Knicks were 41%, but San Antonio, 36% from the field. You got to think the biggest outlier here is that. The biggest room for improvement is San Antonio on the offensive side. So that's why I landed on the team total over, because I think San Antonio is going to win the game. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. So that is all, you put that in a blender, you wind up with San Antonio over. And again, I think that's the biggest regression point here. San Antonio also was only 26% from three, and I know they're not a very good 3-point shooting team, but 26 is really low. So I think that's going to progress back to some sort of mean here. The Knicks shot 31%, which is fairly low as well for them, at least, because they're a decent 3-point team, and they take usually a lot, although San Antonio took a lot in that game for some reason. I don't know what San Antonio was doing, though, because it seems like they took too many threes. Like, why would they be doing that when San Antonio usually wants to kind of focus on Wemby and their interior presence? And I know Anthony Towns did a decent job against Wemby there, although you think Wemby should be able to match up against him decently, because I think Anthony Towns is somewhat soft, to be honest. I don't know. We'll see, though. But yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit weird. And then it was also weird that Dylan Harper was not in the game late in that game. I know he's really young. He's like 20 or whatever, but he's one of your best players, and he had a good game. So why would you pull Dylan Harper towards the end of that game? That made no sense to me. You want your best guys on the floor to finish off that game. I don't know. It made no sense. San Antonio imploded in that game. I don't know. I could see that being a bad thing because they had the lead, whatever. But as a favorite at home, I still think they bounced back here. They did win the rebounding battle, by the way. Like I said, they led more than half of the game. They had the bigger lead in the game as well. So San Antonio, the final score was definitely misleading. The Knicks' biggest lead was the final score. And prior to overtaking San Antonio towards the end of that game, the Knicks didn't have a lead that was bigger than like 4 during the game. So do with that information what you want as well. But yeah, I think the biggest regression point, there are some indicators that San Antonio was better than it looks here, and the biggest regression point, and they also lost the turnover battle, so that could kind of swing in the opposite direction too. The Knicks had very few turnovers, and usually the home team wins the turnover battle. I know San Antonio's been a bit sloppy. Poppy's been sloppy. Wait, they don't have Greg Popovich anymore, do they? But I like that. I need to get that for a Seinfeld drop. Poppy's been a little sloppy. With Jerry's girlfriend, if you haven't seen it, Jerry's girlfriend's father owns a pizza restaurant, and Jerry's about to eat the pizza that he made, but Jerry runs into him in the bathroom and notices that he doesn't wash his hands, and then Jerry doesn't want to eat the pizza. The girlfriend is offended. Oh, man. I love Seinfeld, man. Poppy's been a little sloppy. All right. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have to say about this game. We're going San Antonio over actually, the other thing I wanted to point out, look at what San Antonio's done in their wins during the playoffs. So against OKC, 2 of the 3 wins that they had went over this total, although one of them was 111. And then against Minnesota, all of their wins went over against Minnesota. All 4 of them went over this number. And all 4 of their wins against Portland also went over this number, although one of them was 111 as well. But that means, I believe what that comes out to is San Antonio in their wins, if you think they're going to win the game, they're 10-1 going over this number in their playoff wins this season. So I like that, even though I know in the OKC series, OKC was the team that was correlated to the over. But I like San Antonio to go over this total here. And in their home games, I think they've been able to do it quite a bit as well. Against OKC, they went over this total Actually, they only went over this total once in the 3 games at home. Against Minnesota, they went over in 2 of the 3 at home. And then against Portland, they went over in 1 of the 2, or 2 of the 3, excuse me. So not as good, but in their wins, they've been very good at going over this total. So that's where we're going to go here. San Antonio over the total, 110.5. That's going to do it. Those are my plays for the day. Thomas, what's up, man? Yes, I think, well, I don't know about a Wemby bounce back because he played pretty well in that game, right? Like, he had a double-double as he usually does. Like, his stats were pretty solid in the game, but yeah. Popovich, oh yeah, all right. Then Poppy is still there being sloppy, but it was the coach's fault that Dylan Harper wasn't in the game there, though. Greg Popovich, dude, I hated that he was like Steve Kerring and going out there and talking politics all the time. Like, shut up, dude. Just coach, you know what I mean? Yeah, and Popovich is the one who's mostly responsible for sitting a bunch of players. That was his thing. Oh, I'm going to rest like all of my starters in every other game. You know what I mean? That was his thing, but whatever. I mean, he knew what he was doing as a coach, though. I will give him that. That's going to do it for my stuff today, though. Long show today, man. My plays today are the under 7.5 in baseball here in Indians and Rangers. Then the play that I think I like the best today is, which I just edited the timer. I hate how StreamYard does that. But my other play in baseball is the Mets on the money line, full game. I like it. It's a situation. I think pretty much everything lines up for the Mets. You can get them as an underdog there. And then Spurs team total over, trying to find a way to attack that game in a what I think should be a bounce back there. Another way that you could look at that game is you could money line parlay San Antonio with something else. You know, if you want to go with the money line on San Antonio, I don't know what you'd parlay it with, though. That's kind of my issue there, because you want to find like a favorite that's kind of a similar price to that. Like, I don't know, did I have a lean on any of those big favorites in baseball? You could parlay it with the Cubs. Actually, I don't really hate that. I mean, I don't like moneyline parlays, again, because they're two independent results, but the Cubs are kind of in that price range where it makes sense, and I did kind of lean their way. So that might make the most sense there. A moneyline parlay Spurs and Cubs. I don't know, but that's going to do it, man. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. You know the drill. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Tell everybody about it. You know, we're on audio as well, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker. We've been going up in the numbers a little bit, so that all helps me out. Covered in Uke is my ukulele cover channel on YouTube. I got to get my most recent Blink cover up there that I did on Twitter for the Enema of the State anniversary. I played my favorite song from it, Anthem, so I'm going to get that up on the YouTube soon. Patreon.com/LearnToToad for some extra Uke stuff. I know I have to be better at keeping that Spotify feed for the Uke stuff that's on there up to date. I got to be better at getting the requests done. For Harry Balls, I know I'm still going to do that request that I said I was going to do. I'm going to do it. Charles, I know you're out there somewhere. I got to look at some more of your requests. Refresh my memory, I guess. I got to try to get back to that. I'll try to do it. I'm going to still try to do some Uke streams eventually. I know I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I don't know. I got stuff on my plate. I'm going to a lot of shows in the near future as well here. You know, I'm still doing what I can here. And then what else do we have going on here? Loser Cast every Tuesday night, of course. You can check that out. I think we had a pretty fun episode this week. We had, and then the Giants G-Spot podcast, which I keep talking about. It'll be back at some point. And I will have a Belmont Stakes episode here. Going to try to break down the Belmont Stakes, which I think it's easier to handicap than the other two races because a lot of it is kind of fading what happened in the Kentucky Derby, where it's a race where a lot of horses in the Derby are in this race and skip the Preakness. I think what you want to do is kind of zigzag, basically, if you find reason to zigzag some of the stuff that happened in the Derby. So that means I don't really like Golden Tempo. You know, that's what that means, even though he's got a good jockey on him. I'm going to talk about it, so I'll be back for that. I'm going to be out tonight, so that's either going to be a really late night show tonight, or I'll try to do it in the afternoon here. It won't be that long of a show. So subscribe, and you'll get the notification when I go live to talk about the Belmont, which they're not going to be official plays, but just kind of my read on the race. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, everybody. Peace. Happy Friday.
But don't you go quiet, don't you fade from the floor. Your name still means something to somebody for sure. Put the glass down, baby. Look at me now.